You are entering the VSiN Green Zone, exclusively broadcasting on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Interact with the show on Twitter at VSiNLive and keep up to date with the latest in sports gaming news at vsin.com. Now, here are your guides through the zone, Ron Flatter and Amal Shah.
Standing by in a few moments, we'll be joined by Jason Cole, NFL reporter, who's been around the traps, as they say. As we used to say back in the old days in Australia. He's joining us from Bleacher Report, and he'll be on with us here on VSiN in just a moment or two. So far, I suppose the surprise of the day, Amal, is the Giants.
Absolutely, no question. They're up 20-7 right now against the Eagles. The Eagles, I don't know, they're a little bit slow getting to Giant Stadium today, but I'll tell you what, Ron, I wish you and I played for the Cincinnati Bengals. We could give about a 5% effort and be paid 100% of our check. I mean, this team is flat out not showing up in Minneapolis. It just really surprised me, the performance they've had.
This is like practice squad guys who show up and all they got to do is, go out for the non-contact drills and they still make however many $1,000 a week. That's a great gig. This is doing what they're doing right now in Cincinnati. That's a great gig, I guess, if you can get it.
To me, these guys are not even practice squad guys. These are some regular backups because the effort has just not been there. You know, you look at some of the games today, some surprising turns early on. I mean, we knew Jacksonville was going to handle Houston, but they're up big on them. Browns have jumped in front of Baltimore.
Oh, God. Well, of course, the moment I put money against the Browns, here come the Browns.
Well, the good news is, Ron, you didn't take the first half, and they've got another 35 and a half minutes to play, and it's still the Browns.
It's still me. It's still me. That's the problem.
Fair enough.
All right, let's bring Jason Cole into the conversation now. He's from Bleacher Report, NFL reporter extraordinaire, has been covering the league for decades. Let's start with the Marvin Lewis story, and let's figure out where the Bengals go from there. As we were talking about, the Bengals just putting on a display that is second to everyone right now as they're getting thrashed by Minnesota 17-0. So Marvin Lewis out, where do they turn?
Interesting question. I was talking with somebody within the Bengals organization. They said it's funny, if Hugh Jackson gets fired in Cleveland, they almost believe that Mike Brown would want to bring in Hugh Jackson because of his disciplinary nature and because he understands the organization. What the big concern here is for Mike Brown is he going to get somebody who's going to sort of play along with how he wants to run things? In his own way, it's sort of like how Jerry Jones runs the Cowboys, and Jerry finally found a guy in Jason Garrett who's willing to do it the way that Jerry wants to do it. Mm-hmm. And so is Mike going to get that, or is Mike going to go out there and end up, interviewing coaches who will come in and say, look, these are the things that have to change in the organization or we're not taking the job. And that may be difficult for Mike Brown.
Some other names that have popped up, Paul Guenther, the defensive coordinator who's there already. Josh McDaniels' name has popped up. Are those credible names, or are they just being thrown out there because we do?
Josh McDaniels will never, ever, 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 ever take that job. Never. Never, ever, 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 ever.
So any chance that Josh McDaniels takes that job? Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
No, I was just kidding you about what you said there.
Yeah.
But Guenther.
Yeah, Guenther's a possibility. He's there. I mean, he'll take the job for relatively cheap. I mean, so the question and the question becomes, if they keep Guenther, do you keep a lot of the guys on staff? Because you've got a lot of assistant coaches who their contracts are running out. They're going to be looking for jobs. What are you going to do there? So that's a natural assumption that Guenther will do it because he understands the culture there and he may go along. But again, Guenther may say, look, there's got to be some addition by subtraction here. We can't have Vontez and Pac-Man. We can't have players who basically run the asylum and are taking on coaches on the sideline or shoving coaches during practice, because that's part of the problem there. There's not a lot of discipline. The Bengals, in their own way, have sort of become what the Raiders were under Al Davis, where there was, at the end at least, where there was very little respect for the coaching staff.
Bleacher Report's Jason Cole joining us right now on VSiN here on the Green Zone. Ron Flatter with Amal Shah.
Jason, let's stay in the NFC North today. The best game on the board, Pittsburgh and New England. Patriots are 2.5-point road favorite. any particular advantage you see in this game? My one concern for the Steelers is no Ryan Shazier. I feel like the Patriots are going to be able to move the ball, particularly in the middle of the field. And then, of course, offensively, how are they going to perform against that New England defense, which is very good against the pass?
Well, Steelers get Shazier's main backup back, who he also didn't play last week, so that was some of their problem in handling the Baltimore running game. They also get Joe Hayden back, who, when he was there, was their secondary was playing a whole lot better. We'll see what kind of shape Hayden's in, because they've given up I think 6 or 8 passes of 50 yards or longer this year. I mean, the most they've given up in 50 years, right? So there's obviously some issues in the secondary. Look, the one big question I have here is, what are the Steelers finally going to do to say we're going to contain or stop the Patriots' passing attack? Because they've never come up with the right answer, especially when they've tried to play zone. It just doesn't work. Like, they've never come up with great schemes, whether it was Dick LeBeau or whether it's the current defensive staff. They've never come up with great answers to stop Brady. And, obviously people are looking at Brady and saying, well, he didn't play very well on Monday night. Gronkowski wasn't there. Hogan's not going to play today, but they got Gronk back, and that's a huge help for them. So I'm just, I'm fascinated by this game. Now, on talent, if you compare last year's AFC title game with what's happened now, and just compare how the rosters have changed, Pittsburgh should win this game. They've got a whole lot more. They got Le'Veon Bell, T.J. Watt, Bud Dupree. I mean, lots of guys who did not play in that game. And New England lost a bunch of people and have guys like Van Noy hurt. Obviously, Hogan not playing. So you would think that this plays to Pittsburgh's advantage. But again, I come back to, how are you defending against Brady in that passing attack? Because I think that there's a potential for New England to score 40-plus points. And if they jump out early and have a 2-score advantage in this game early, I think they cruise.
And further to the point, though, and I don't want to just gloss over the injuries that you were mentioning on the New England defense. And, as we mentioned, New England favored by 2.5. The total is 53. I'm just wondering if this could be a high-scoring game, even if Pittsburgh won it decisively, or New England won it decisively, whoever won it decisively. It just seems to me that you can point to the defenses in both cases and see some injuries that could leave them both vulnerable. How do you see it?
Absolutely. I mean, I do see a high-scoring game. The one exception I would say this is that if you look at the Baltimore game and you see what Alex Collins did in that game, does New England come into this game and say, okay, let's really try and hammer them with the running game and try and play a little bit more ball control than we usually do? And they've done that in the past. And they did that against Atlanta famously, where they played almost the entire game in 2 and 3 tight end formations. I don't see that happening today, because I think that Pittsburgh has a better defensive line, but I do see it being a balanced New England attack. The question becomes is, do they get some big plays against that secondary, especially with Gronkowski down the middle of the field, because that secondary just doesn't hold up very well.
It's Bleacher Report's Jason Cole, who you're hearing here on VSiN. Ron Flatter with Amal Shaw.
Jason, obviously a big game in Seattle today. The Rams travel up there to take on the Hawks. The Hawks are now a 1-point favorite at home. There's no running game. All the pressure falls on Russell Wilson. But in this matchup, this Rams defense has not been prolific by any stretch of the imagination. A revenge factor here for the Rams today. How do you see this matchup shaking out?
It's really interesting. I don't know, because obviously the first time that these teams played came down to the end of the game. Jared Goff almost makes just an amazing throw to Cooper Kupp, actually twice on back-to-back plays, but Kupp just barely drops, one of those 2 passes. And, the Rams almost win that game. I say that, and Seattle's gone backwards since then in terms of personnel. They don't have Cam Chancellor, and they don't have Richard Sherman anymore since that game. So my tendency is to believe that the Rams just have better personnel. One of my big questions, though, is Seattle's done a really good job of getting up for home games here in the second half of the season when they really need to have it. Are they going to be able to do it? Sort of like in the Philly game. The big difference in that one is they were underdogs at home in a nationally televised game. not exactly the same kind of situation. Here, they are a favorite, and there's a little slightly different mentality. But I always believe that if you're talking about the difference between two teams, and one of those teams has consistently been in big games and won big games, I will take that team until the younger one proves otherwise. And so I will stick with Seattle. But if I was a betting man, this is probably a game that I would stay away from.
Seattle has mentioned a 1.5-point favorite, the total 47.5. Where do you rank Russell Wilson in an MVP vote, Jason?
He's in the top 4. I mean, I've seen a lot of charts. You got Brady, Antonio Brown, Russell Wilson. Some people still have Carson Wentz. There's some talk about Ben Roethlisberger. He's in that discussion. I always wonder with Russell Wilson, he does this kind of flying Walenda kind of stuff to get himself out of situations, which was really impressive, and people make a lot out of it, and it should be respected. It's a lot, it's like a lot like watching Fran Tarkenton, do a lot of his escape stuff where he would go out the back end of the pocket, which he's not supposed to do, but he would still find a way to make it work, right? So Russell Wilson's sort of a modern Fran Tarkenton. The problem is that I have with that is how much of that is a creation of him and the way he plays, because he's short, he likes to run around, they don't have great guard play, it makes it hard for him to read defenses quickly because he doesn't have the vision. They've got short wide receivers, they have the one tall tight end. And so is this a creation of Russell Wilson, and are we wowed by Russell Wilson, or is this a creation of situation? So I just have this slight hesitancy on Russell Wilson. But at the end of the day, if they make the playoffs with that beat-up team and have kind of an impressive season, you've got to have him in the discussion. There's no question about it.
Glad to have you in the discussion, he said, segueing to the part where I ask you where we can find your work.
You can find me at Jason Cole 62 on Twitter. That's where I'm at.
All right. And, of course, your work on Bleacher Report, which we always enjoy, and we always find a lot of good information. Jason Cole, thanks for your time here on VSiN.
No problem, guys. Be good. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Now, in addition to the scores, Amal, I know you've got some important defensive news as far as injuries and roster with the Seahawks coming up for their game today against the Rams.
Yeah, Ron, you're right on. Linebacker KJ Wright has been downgraded to doubtful due to concussion against the Rams. Also, Bobby Wagner is a game-time decision due to hamstring. These two are the leading tacklers on the Seahawks defense. That could be a big deal. Let's start in Cleveland so my man Ron Flatter can be a little bit relaxed as we head into halftime. 10-7 Baltimore over Cleveland. We're at the 2-minute warning actually in Cleveland.
Need more points.
Buffalo in front of Miami 14-6. A minute 42 left in the second quarter there. Carolina leads Green Bay 10-7 at the 2-minute warning in Carolina. It's Jacksonville all over Houston, 21-0, 6 minutes to go in the second quarter. Minnesota throttling Cincinnati 24-0, 4.5 to go in the second quarter. It's New Orleans in front of the Jets, 17-7 with 3 minutes to go in the first half. It's the Giants in front of Philadelphia, 20-7 with 5.5 to play in the second quarter, but the Eagles are in the red zone. And Washington leads Arizona 14-6, just inside the 2-minute warning in the second quarter there.
A couple of more notes on the Seahawks. They have promoted Paul Dawson, a linebacker off their practice squad. Ode Abushi has been put on injured reserve. And by the way, in case Cam Chancellor had not been on injured reserve yet, so they were obviously holding out some hope. But now he has been placed on IR, so the formality of that now has been punctuated. So a lot of moves in terms of the Seahawks. How does that affect how you look at the game?
Oh, excuse me. To me, it's a big blow from a defensive standpoint in terms of the losses for Seattle. I'm not playing this game, but if I were to, I'd be looking at the Rams despite the fact that the Hawks are at home. I just feel like they've got too many injuries, and at some point in time, you can't overcome it. We're seeing it in the Cincinnati game. Defensively, they've been terrible without Vontaze Burfict, Dre Kirkpatrick, and Carlos Dunlap, I don't even know if he's in the lineup today or not, but he came into the game questionable.
Greg, can I do you want me to do what do you want me to promote here before I go? We're going to talk college basketball here in a moment, and I want to make sure I do the due diligence for the business part of what we do.
How about the new features on the website giving you all the odds around Las Vegas?
See, well, you kind of already did it. You just did. I mean, I'm just going to get real wordy about it now. But we do have a thing called Odds Across Las Vegas. And if you go to vsin.com/Vegas odds, there's your shopping center. So you don't have to go fumbling through all your apps to see which sports books have what. It's all on one page. And if you see a point spread that jumps off that page at you, then you can hop on your app and make that bet. So it's not just South Point, by the way. 10 other Las Vegas sports books are on that grid. And so you can see it refreshes by itself. So when there is some steam, it'll pop right up on the screen there on your tablet or on your phone or on your blender or whatever you have it on. So that's the vsin.com website, and it is powered by Don Best Sports. Okay, good matchup coming up at the top of the hour in college basketball. In fact, an SEC team having some early success will have a pretty good test at home today against a traditional ACC power. We preview it next on VSiN.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive. You are back in the VSiN Green Zone. Sign up for our daily newsletter and watch the show at VSIN.com. Now back to Las Vegas and the VSiN studios.
Yeah, it feels so 2016. You know, you see Rodgers to Cobb for a touchdown in the late 2-minute drill in the first half, and you just sit there going, oh, okay, that's all. Feels like old times again. Packers are out in front of Carolina 14-10 late second quarter.
I just had a quick question before we go to college basketball. Weren't you like sweating this Browns game and then It went from 7-3 to 10-7, and now you're going into halftime. Looks like you might have a 10-point lead because the Ravens just put a 3-play, 45-yard drive together.
I'm still sweating.
No, I didn't say you weren't, but I'm just saying.
But I'm liking
Hugh
that.
Jackson and Deshaun Kaiser are part of that Browns team, so I like your chances here.
I know. Well, I'm liking them more, and so yeah, absolutely. So for those just tuning in, I know you're just riveted to the fact that I have action on the Ravens today, laying 7 at Cleveland, 6.5. Pardon me. That was why I jumped in. Let's get to college basketball, shall we? Because there is a pretty good game, as we are wont to have on Sundays, and they will only pick up steam as football winds to a close. This one coming up in about 40 minutes or less. This will be in Knoxville. Number 20 Tennessee, undefeated at home, 7-1 for the year, but facing its toughest test so far this season, as the Volunteers will be at home against number 7 North Carolina, 9-1 overall, played one game in hostile territory this season, but just a 1.5 favorite as a road fave. The Tar Heels are right now, a point or a 1.5. Most places a 1.5 right now as we get ready for that game, Amal.
Yeah, I don't really have a particular side I like in this matchup. The one concern I have with Carolina, I feel like this ranking is more based on name and the lack of schedule. They played Michigan State in one game in the PK 80. They lost by 18. You look at some of their other wins against Arkansas, Michigan. These are tournament teams, but not great teams. I feel like Tennessee's played a much better schedule. They lost to Villanova. They knocked off Purdue. They beat NC State. They won on the road at Georgia Tech, which is a conference foe that North Carolina will play later in the year. Admiral Schofield has been great for Carolina. I think if you are for Tennessee, Admiral Schofield. For North Carolina, they're going to need a big day out of Joel Berry. He'll probably be guarded by Bone in this matchup, but he's got an ankle injury, so that could be an area of concern for Tennessee, but I still like them playing at home in this matchup. I'm not going to play this one, but if you had to give an edge, I would say Tennessee just simply because they're a little bit more tested and they're at home.
How do you feel about what Luke May has done? He certainly put up good numbers, 20-10 guys so far. Playing for North Carolina?
Last year he hit the game-winning shot against Kentucky in the Sweet 16, and I think that bolstered his confidence to a level now with all the losses they had and with Barry coming off an injury to start the year. I thought that put him in a position to be the leader on this team, and it's helped him immensely. It's either a position you grow into or you regress from, and I feel like he's grown into it. And to his credit, this team has done an outstanding job kind of building off of what he's done.
One other game involving a ranked team coming up at the top of the hour, and that is number 21 Baylor at home against Savannah State. Is there a line out on this game, Amal?
I have, you know what? If there is, it's just come out. I'm trying to find it right now.
I'm looking as well, and I don't see it. Can you see our fingers do the walking? We can't find a thing at the moment.
Yeah, but this is a game where, look, Savannah State and the MEAC. This is a team that. This is a paycheck game for them. They're getting paid to come over. They'll probably get destroyed by about 25 to 35 points. They'll have a hard time scoring against Baylor's length and Baylor's ability on the defensive side of the ball. It's just a matter of how much Baylor decides to put up on the offensive end.
Not seeing a line on this game, but as you look for ways to bet on games that might go under the radar, do you look for games like that in any way, or do you just avoid these wanton mismatches?
No, I follow certain teams. And so for me, there's certain matchups you look at and you go, okay, you know what certain teams can do. For example, Friday night, University of San Francisco Dons played at home. That's a team that people don't realize at War Memorial Gym. They're a pretty competitive team.
Tough little place to play.
Absolutely. It's a very small gym. You know that one. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And so there's a little bit of an advantage there. They play fairly well. It's not like Carolina's coming into the building. So certain matchups, there's some opportunities there, and that's what you're looking for. Certain teams, certain situations where you feel like there's an edge based on the matchup and who they're playing.
In fact, from your lips to God's ears again, I think I've said that a few times. You're such a prescient man. Stanford is home for USF today. Stanford only favored by 7, considering they are 5-6. You kind of see why to an extent. USF has gotten off to a 6-3 start.
Yeah, Stanford's played a pretty good schedule, though. This is a team that, they played Denver the other night. They struggled a little bit. They had some opportunities. They got off to a great lead early, but then allowed Denver to come back in the game. This is a game, if I were to take, I would just be looking at Stanford in this matchup, because I feel like the size difference with Reed inside will be the difference in the overall matchup. The number is not ridiculously high. They're a little bit more athletic than the Dons are, but this is not a game I'm going to play.
Let me get two other Pac-12 teams, your opinion on them. The Huskies of Washington at home. That'll be a 9-point favorite. Washington will be at home against Loyola Marymount.
Yeah, the problem I have with UW is they had that great win against Kansas, then they get blown out by Gonzaga in a matchup later on.
Was that a letdown?
No, I don't think it was a letdown, because that's a big rivalry within the state. I think it was a situation where the Zags took them seriously. They realized, hey, this team just beat Kansas. We got to come out and play.
Okay.
And so I think that was more of a situation there, and they did a great job of it. I'm just not really on Washington yet. I like some of the players they have. Matisse Thybulle, great length, especially on the defensive end. A 6'5", 2-guard, maybe plays the 3 a little bit, but really they can get after you if they give the effort on the defensive end, much better than they did under Lorenzo Romar, now under Mike Hopkins. But I'm just not ready to jump on that bandwagon just yet.
USC home tonight against UC Santa Barbara. Trojans favored by 12.5.
Yeah, one of my favorite nicknames, the Gauchos. They travel down to Los Angeles to take on the Trojans. I like this Trojans team. Elijah Stewart playing outstanding for them, really shooting the three-point ball well. Benny Boatwright has been a bit inconsistent. Metiu has played well for the most part, but needs to be a little bit more consistent. I think this is still a team that can make noise in the Pac-12. They are one of the 3 teams that I see being at the top of the Pac-12 conference. But these are the kinds of games, if you're USC, you need to be able to handle your business, because this is the team that's going to come in, and they're like, hey, we got a chance to knock off a team that probably didn't recruit us as players.
You know what a gaucho is?
I do not.
I believe it's a Latino cowboy. Have I got that right? Anybody around here?
Yes, he's
saying
right? Yes.
There you go. All right. Greg Peterson behind the glass confirming that. All right. Coming up. Now, I'll try and translate other fine terms. The caballos. Would you like to know more about that? LeBron and the Cavs are home to play John Wall and the Wizards. Before we jump to talk about that game, let's jump over to Mr. Shaw here to tell us about what the NFL is looking like right now.
Starting in Cleveland, the Ravens lead the Browns 17-7 as they near halftime in that one. Also in New Orleans, the Saints lead the Jets by the same score of 17-7 as there's 13 seconds left in the first half. Philadelphia stormed back to take the lead in New York against the Giants 21-20, just outside of the 2-minute warning. Washington leads Arizona 14-9 at halftime. It's Green Bay in front of Carolina 14-10 at the break. And it's Buffalo all over Miami 21-6 at halftime.
And go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and I don't recall if I gave this game or not. Minnesota leads Cincinnati 24-0 at the break.
Okay, and just to give you some second half lines on these games that have reached the half, Green Bay up by 4, Carolina laying 2.5 for the second half, the total 24. Cincinnati trailing by 24. It's Minnesota minus 3.5 for the second half. The total is either 20 or 20.5, depending on where you are. Westgate, for instance, the 20. You have to lay 6-5 with the juice. Miami at Buffalo with the Bills leading by 15. It's the Dolphins minus 0.5 point here at South Point. The total 20.5. Redskins and Cardinals. Washington by 5 at home. It is Washington laying 1 with the total 20. Anything jump out at you?
Not particularly right now. These games have been interesting. The one thing that's been surprising to me is that the Jets have been competitive. They just added a field goal. It's 17-10 with 10 seconds to go before halftime.
Okay. I'm just looking at this myself. Nothing jumping off the page at me either. The fact that Minnesota's only laying 3.5 for the second half, maybe they're just going to try and lay down and get the hell out of there.
What was the total on that game?
20.5 or 20 or 20.5. 20. If you take the under, you have to lay 6-5 at Westgate. 20, and now it's getting posted elsewhere. Here at South Point, a dime line each way, 20.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I was surprised when you said 21 because I don't foresee there being 3 touchdowns in this game. It's 24-0.
And it's moved off 21 where it was. So
that doesn't surprise me at all.
In fact, it's moved. Yeah, it's 20 and 20.
That's probably a game I'd look at the under in the second half.
Okay. Coming up, we shall talk a little bit about LeBron and the Cavs and the John Wall coming back with the Wizards and the NBA and all of that coming up and more second half lines. We'll do all that next on VSiN.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive. You are back in the VSiN Green Zone. Sign up for our daily newsletter and watch the show at VSiN.com. Now back to Las Vegas and the VSiN studios.
Ron Flatter with Amal Shaw. A couple more second half lines have popped up now in the NFL. Baltimore leading Cleveland 17-10. It's Baltimore laying 2.5, and if you go take the favorite there, you have 6-5 juice you have to lay here at South Point. Total 21.5. Arizona at Washington, we mentioned earlier. Washington laying a point at even money there, and the over-under 20.5, shaded to the under. And let's see now. Jets trailing New Orleans 17-10 at halftime. Saints laying 7 in the second half, the total 24. All right, so let's get to the matter of the NBA. Handful of matchups. Nothing really jumping off the page save one matchup today in the NBA that actually looks pretty good, and that will be the Cleveland Cavaliers going to take on the Washington Wizards. Of course, the Wizards getting John Wall back from injury. And Amal, what do we have for a line on that game? Have we, you got anything?
Washington, a 2.5-point favorite, total of 214.5.
All right, on that basis, let's go to Jared Zwerling, an NBA insider for Sports Illustrated, who joins us now on VSiN. So how much of a difference will we see John Wall making with the Wizards as he's back in making his comeback early in his comeback now as they take on the vaunted Cavaliers?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, guys, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time. John, I saw the game again tonight against the Grizzlies, and first quarter, at least, tentative.
Just a sec. Jared, I think your phone's going south. Well, let's try and reconnect with you, and we'll go ahead and revisit that topic. While we're on it, Amal, we'll at least get your thoughts on this. Game in Washington. Otto Porter Jr. is a question mark for this game, which will be tipping off at 6:05 Eastern time. So how do you look at it?
This is a interesting matchup. I expect the Wizards to come out and give some effort. Cleveland beat them back in November, 130 to 122. This is a revenge spot for the Wizards. Surprisingly, they're a favorite at home here. I thought this line might be closer to a pick'em. I'm not going to take the Cavs in this spot simply because they're on the road. I think Washington gets up for this game a little bit more, but I won't end up touching it.
How do you like the Cavaliers' defense now? Is it still as suspect as we've been saying it is?
It's slightly better, but I don't think it's to the level where you sit there and go, okay, I feel like this team can contend with Golden State. There's still some deficiencies. They did a nice job against Philadelphia on the road a few weeks ago, or a couple of weeks back. They did a good job, obviously against the Bulls before they were fully healthy. I'm just not completely convinced that they are a championship caliber team.
And your thoughts on Wall returning to join Bradley Beal in the Wizards' backcourt?
Ron, in terms of overall player, I wouldn't put him as a top 5 player, but to significance of a team, I'd put him as top 5 importance to a team.
As in, valuable versus player of the year kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Great example there. He is the catalyst for Bradley Beal, for Otto Porter. He makes the whole team go. And without him, the team is just not the same.
How are we doing? Is Jared back? Jared, why don't we go ahead and get your thoughts on this? We've kind of broken down the game a little bit, but go from the general to the specific on John Wall and his return.
Yeah, absolutely. How's it now?
You look great. You sound great. It's beautiful.
Well, I was just saying, first of all, thank you for having me on. First time on, so appreciate it.
Sure.
Out here in cold New York City. I know Vegas is always nice. I saw the game against the other night against the Grizzlies with John. First quarter, a little hesitant with that knee, but second quarter, really, we saw that flash, the explosiveness that we all know John Wall is about, really attacking the rim so well, dunking both hands left to right. So, this year has been great for Bradley Beal, taking that next step in his game, becoming a much better playmaker, finishing, really becoming a bigger, versatile player beyond a shooter. So now John's back, so a great backcourt, one of the best in the game. The Wizards are struggling a little bit this year. I think their bench is not the best, a little inexperienced, but
we said that last year.
Yeah, and their starting 5 is one of the best in the sense of just continuity-wise. They've been playing together for the last 3-4 years now. So, I'm expecting LeBron, though, to dominate this. He's averaging his best career mark in 10 years since 08-09, basically, and, hitting at a great clip from the field, 58%. Guys are hitting threes. Jose Calderon's now hitting threes. Conquer off the bench, so their high octane offense right now is just too good to stop. So, and they've been winning 16 of 17 right now, so very, very difficult for them.
Speaking of teams that are doing well streak-wise, Toronto at home has won 10 of 11 at the Air Canada Centre and will be home in a little less than an hour for the Sacramento Kings, who can't seem to get out of their own way. Toronto is a 12-point favorite. The total on the game, 203. How do you look at this game?
Well, home court, I think the Raptors are still one of the best teams in the East. They've been kind of taking a step back record as far as other years, but tough to stop DeMar DeRozan. Hopefully Kyle Lowry is starting to come alive this year. I haven't seen the same Kyle Lowry in previous years. He's deferring more to DeMar, so can Kyle come out and have a big game? That's going to be big for him. Overall, they're a pretty solid defensive team. Serge Ibaka, they have some nice pieces there. As far as the Kings goes, they're still a young team. De'Aaron Fox, the point guard, you look at Justin Jackson, the starting 5. They have a lot of new faces there. So not sure how much they can do in the sense of their high-octane offense if they can sustain and keep up with the Raptors in the Air Canada Center, like you said. So, one thing I'm watching for is just the veteran leadership with Zach Randolph and Vince Carter. Can these guys rally around their young bunch, help them push to a victory? But the Raptors, they're, like I said, they just have that continuity. They have the defense. They have the offense, especially at home. So I think it's going to be a good win for the Raptors.
One more on the Raptors. Does Marc Gasol wind up there?
Marc Gasol, I don't know. It's been interesting for him. It's hard to lead Memphis at this point because this is like the last go around, I think, with Mike Conley, and I like to see them stick through it. I know they had a coaching change with the firing of Wayne Fizdale, but Memphis has been his place. He played high school ball there. He's been the main part of this franchise. He's gotten better in the last couple of years, becoming more of a shooter at the center position, and obviously playing with Mike Conley, that they've been together by the hip for the last 7 years. So I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be kind of interesting to see if that happens. It'll be very hard for him to get out of there because of just his longevity there. So I think if any trade happens, I don't expect it to happen anytime soon. I think we'll want to see this thing right out at least to the All-Star break, and then we'll see it from there.
NBA insider Jared Zwerling of Sports Illustrated joining us here on VSiN. Ron Flatter with Amal Shah.
Jared, two teams going in reverse, Orlando and Detroit. Detroit obviously got off to a hot start. They're starting to regress to the norm, but still over 500. Avery Bradley is going to be a game-time decision today. They are a 9-point favorite against Orlando. And then the Magic without Evan Fournier and, of course, Aaron Gordon. Does Evan Fournier make that much of a difference to this lineup? Because we've really started to see them taper off without him in the lineup. And then how much does Bradley impact Detroit if he's not in the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bradley has a bigger effect to the Pistons for sure. He's probably still the best perimeter defender in the league. So I think that's a big loss if depending on how he comes out. You know, he was the heart and soul in Boston, in many ways the heart and soul in Detroit. Even though he's not a vocal player, he does on the court, which is setting the tempo defensively. So, yeah, you mentioned the Pistons did take a little bit of a backseat, but overall, Tobias Harris, he's playing like an all-star, not at that 20-point, 25-point clip like most all-stars usually score, but really efficient from the field, over 50% from three. All the guys have been really hitting a lot of threes. And, the Pistons, in many ways, they have the makings of a top team with two slashing point guards, Reggie Jackson, Ish Smith, and guys that can hit threes around them. And not to mention Andre Drummond. I mean, I've been really impressed with him. Instead of being just a back-to-the-basket guy, he's now off pick and rolls, and he's averaging a career-high in assists around 4 a game. So he's now becoming more of a playmaking big, which I'm very impressed to see. He's killing it with the double-doubles and rebounds. The Magic are one of those teams I was definitely surprised with how they started. But you have to give a lot of credit to also, you mentioned Fournier, but also Aaron Gordon. I think he's taking the next step in his game, will become more of a complete small forward. The Magic, though, they're missing a lot. They're missing some star power. They're missing some veteran leadership. They're missing the continuity. They're still sort of like, what's their identity? You don't really know what the Magic identity is every night. They just sort of have these sort of average players, and the expectedness of what they're going to do is not really there. So I think the Pistons should dominate this one. I think that they're, like you said, they take a back seat, but I think that they're still overall a very high-octane team that's scoring a lot more points this year. So I expect them to take this one.
Hang on just a second, Jared. I want to get a quick NFL update in. Let me give a couple of second half lines, and Amal, I'll have you run through the scores, and then we'll jump back in with you, Jared, on other NBA topics. First of all, second half number with the Giants leading Philadelphia 23-21 at the half. Second half, Philadelphia, as it continues the comeback, is laying 6.5, and the total 22. And the other game, Jacksonville crushing Houston 31-0 at halftime. Jacksonville laying 3 with 6-5 juice. If you go that way here at South Point, total 19.5, actually down to 19 now. And Amal, you got the other scores.
Yeah, Buffalo leads Miami 21-6, 11.5 to go in the second. Carolina now leads Green Bay 17-14, 11.5 to go in the third. Baltimore in front of Cleveland 17-10 start of the third quarter. Minnesota in front of Cincinnati 24-0 a minute into the third quarter. Jets and Saints still at halftime. Saints lead 17-10. And Washington in front of Arizona 14-12 minute into the third quarter. And the Miami game was in the third quarter.
Yeah, and so that brings us back to the NBA and Jared Zwerling, who is here with Sports Illustrated, an NBA insider for SI, joining us here on VSiN. So the Houston Rockets, here they are, best record in the league, and they got it all cooking, and it looks all wonderful here in December. How's it going to look in April?
For the Houston Rockets?
Mm-hmm.
Great question about their defense, right? Can they withstand and pick that up to complement their amazing offense? So, yeah, I mean, best record in the league. What can you say about them? Winners of 13 straight right now. James Harden, best player in the league. He's getting even better as a playmaking guy. Finishing and doing his magic. Chris Paul, I have to give him a lot of credit, deferring to James. Chris was the guy who had the ball in his hands all the time in LA, and doing a nice job, really becoming more of a shooting guard in many ways, playing off the ball. All the guys are just they're playing free. A lot of the NBA is about the freedom of the offense now. The NBA is not what it used to be, the slow half court, grind out, push the ball up, wait for the big man to set up. If guys have confidence and guys play free and they have the green light, 2 green lights, that's sometimes all it takes. And the D'Antoni is the best offensive coach in the league, so they're rocking and rolling. And even you have to look at how the Warriors will stack up against them in the conference finals. Likely, the Warriors have so much more firepower, but the Rockets are going to keep going, man. I mean, how do you stop what they do? If anything happens to James, let's talk about that in April. But right now, I see them steamrolling through everything.
Jared, Oklahoma City continuing to struggle. They're 14-15. Is it a case of just too many chefs in the kitchen?
I think the biggest thing with the Thunder is just rolls right now. They're all shooting career lows right now, and it's got to be difficult. The ball comes up. Who should get the ball?
Right.
I'm sure you guys have played pickup games before with guys who are really talented, and sometimes who gets the first shot, who gets the last shot, and so. The way that the Thunder need to play, in my opinion, is that Russell needs the ball more in his hands. They have to play a little bit faster. Russell is the kind of guy who needs to play fast, and hopefully, they can get into more of a flow in the fast break situations. Half court, it's just sometimes hard to know who's going to get the ball in those situations. So they got to really feel out, I think, the role plays. I do think they have to do a better job of exploiting mismatches in the sense that whoever has the best matchup of the night, they should sort of come up with a game plan around that guy. And I also think at the end of the day, man, as much as they're going to score, their defense has to be better. We could talk one thing about the Warriors when they got Kevin Durant. I'll talk about their offense. Why they were so good is that their defensive efficiency was so good. And KD has become a great guy with block shots and steals. And so they are so good offensively, but it starts on their defense. So for the Thunder really build up something here. Yes, they'll be able to score, but can they really make stops? Last night against the Knicks, they allowed Michael Beasley to get 30 points. That can't be happening. Michael Beasley's averaging 9 a game. So can they stop defensively, out in transition, let Russell do his thing, and hopefully Paul George can play great on the wing, and Melo can be a great trailing three-point shooter, and then get into their flow that way. So we'll see if they can do that.
Jared, that's why I grab my own rebound and bring the ball up myself. I don't have to worry about passing. I'm a hog.
That's right.
Yeah, in pickup games, I'm the same way. So.
Exactly.
And at my age, all I do is cherry pick, and I still miss the shots.
Right.
One more. Jared Zwerling, I can't let you go because I imagine somebody listening right now is screaming, you previewed Kings and Raptors, you previewed Magic and Pistons, you previewed Cavs and Wizards. Why? Why don't you preview Indiana at Brooklyn? All right, we shall. Indiana, a 2.5-point road favorite with the lovely and talented Victor Oladipo. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I go back to the opening night against the Pacers and Nets, and Jeremy Lin had that injury. So hopefully there's some good luck on the Nets side where no injury happens. So that's the first thing.
Unless it's the owner.
But the Nets, one thing about the Nets, man, under Kenny Atkinson, they play so well with pace. They get a lot of shots up. They run well. They play hard. They don't have a lot of star players, but they play very hard. So the Pacers will need to be locked in defensively. Like you said, Victor Oladipo doing a great job. And, he's emerging with Miles Turner. Still very underrated, but Miles Turner and Victor Oladipo will become one of the best 1-2 punches as far as guards and bigs in this league, and I think in the next couple of years. So that's really something I'm really excited about, their development. Miles is hitting threes from even 28 feet out. Victor Oladipo is slashing. His absorbing contact, his ability to do reverse layups. He's getting better as a finisher. Again, going back to that freedom. He's playing with freedom, playing with pace, and that's great to see. So I expect the Pacers to win this game, just because of their star power. But the Nets always put up a fight. I live in New York. I go to Barclays Center a lot. And the Nets are in games pretty much till the fourth quarter. You don't really see the Nets get blown out a lot. So I expect the Nets to have a bit of a fight down the stretch, but the Pacers to pull it out.
Yes, the Barclays Center, which has hallways behind the scenes and the locker rooms narrower than bowling alleys.
Jared, what are you doing? Community service there? Why are you going?
Oh, to see the Nets play?
Yeah.
Well, I know all these guys.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, a lot of the best times going to games is like the after the games. Before the guys go on the team bus, you see them, talking to their agents and publicists, and there's a lot of cool things. They do a lot of meet and greets. The NBA is big with Make-A-Wish Foundation, so you see these amazing moments of guys meeting kids with leukemia and all these tears. I mean, a lot of the best magic that happens at NBA games happens the hour after a game ends. And I love those moments.
Yeah, he's right. I used to have to go to Barclays Center when I was living there. I had assignments there. And, yeah, I've forgotten all about that now that you mention it.
That's why Jared's a respected journalist. When I cover the Mavericks, I try to get out of there after the postgame as quick as I could. I got out like the building was on fire.
There's a lot of cool things that happen, man. A lot of networking, a lot of news, news and shaking goes on. Now deals are made. You'll see agents talking to GMs. I encourage a lot of young writers, man. If you want to make it this business, network. Don't ever just get in front of your computer. Get out there, watch, observe. Stay late, get early. I mean, you see a lot of the interesting conversations that are happening. Get you really interested in meeting more people, and those are the best moments. I mean, just around the facility, behind the scenes. Some really cool things that go on.
Yeah, no, Amal's probably already on the C train getting the hell out of there, like before the fourth quarter's even over.
It is late, though. I won't lie. You're out there till like 1 a.m. sometimes, but hey, it's all worth the end of the day.
But every subway line goes there, so that's a good thing. All right, oh man, do I miss New York? Miss the wonderful subway service.
I miss the pizza.
What are we going to see? What are we going to see an NBA team in Vegas? What do you guys think?
Oh, now that's interesting. Listen, you start getting hearing noise about teams unhappy with their buildings, and we got
a great building here, Jared. I don't know if you were here for the All-Star weekend. I think it was in 07 out here.
07.
Oh,
yeah, that's when. No,
you don't want to talk about that.
That's when Chuck kissed Dick Bavetta during the race. Remember that?
Oh, that's right. That was here. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that
was here. I forgot about that. We got a better building.
They race each other for a bet. That was fun.
That's true. All right, tell us where we find your work before we get too far afield here.
Yeah, SI.com. I do a lot of video work, and also I'll be working with a new app launch coming in January. Working with Roger Mason again. He's the current commissioner of the Big Three, and he played in the NBA for 11 years. And I actually used to work with him at the NBA Players Association, so we're doing some stuff behind the scenes. So it'll be called Vaunt, V-A-U-N-T, and Sports Illustrated is just mostly SI.com for the most part.
Well, we'll look forward to the launch of Vaunt as well. We know all about launches around here. So Jared Zwirling from Sports Illustrated, thanks for your time here on VSiN.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
SI has the Vault, and he's got Vaunt.
Absolutely.
Not a bad deal. All right, I'll come back. We'll talk a little baseball. Somebody's elbow is kind of giving him trouble with the Angels before he even shows up. Yeah, domo arigato, next on VSiN.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive. You are back in the VSiN Green Zone. Sign up for our daily newsletter and watch the show at VSiN.com. Now back to Las Vegas and the VSiN studios.
We'll get you up to date on the NFL in a few moments. If you're listening on Sirius XM 204, the update will be coming your way from the newsroom in New York. Ron Flatter and Amal Shah. Got a minute we can talk a little baseball. Shohei Ohtani joins the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, a pitcher, outfielder. Now you wonder about or pitcher, whatever he's going to play in the field. And now you wonder about the arm. The Angels go from 50-1 to 30-1 at Westgate to win the World Series on news of Ohtani signing. But now we're hearing he may need the platelet-rich therapy in order to get going. What do you think?
Yeah, that could have a huge impact. I still like the fact that they acquired Ian Kinsler. I think it's going to help that infield.
That's a better move.
Absolutely.
Absolutely is a much better move. All right. Jimmy Vaccaro is going to join us from behind the counter here at South Point. Tell us about where the money's flowing. Next on VSiN.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive.
You are entering the VSiN Green Zone, exclusively broadcasting on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Interact with the show on Twitter at VSiNLive and keep up to date with the latest in sports gaming news at VSiN.com. Now, here are your guides through the zone, Ron Flatter and Amal Shah.
Standing by, final hour of the early games in the NFL, and of course anticipating the games that will be coming up in the later window this afternoon. And of course, collecting money on all these things is Mr. Senior Bookmaker himself, Jimmy Vaccaro, here at South Point. I take it the lines looked huge today. I was at Westgate. They were huge there. What is it about Week 15 that's brought everyone out? Let's get his mic turned on here, and we'll. Is it on? Go ahead. Try again.
You cut me off.
Well, they cut you off before you were even on.
I wasn't on then.
Now you're on.
But now I'm on.
Yeah.
So you were saying?
Week 15, action.
Yeah, it's been very, very good for a lot of reasons. First of all, we're getting down to the point in time where we're leading in with some decent bowl games yesterday. It perked people up a little bit. We're actually, everybody's fighting for their playoff life here. So there's still good games. There's some that don't have any meaning to it, but there's a lot of games that, as I said, people are fighting for it. And they're stepping up, and they're playing heavy. I mean, we're getting a lot of big plays on Week 15, and I would venture to say look for that next 3 weeks.
I would also note, by the way, with the games coming up, Chris Hogan confirmed out for the Patriots, and briefly too, Amal, you had some news on the Seahawks and some defensive moves they've had to make.
Yeah, KJ Wright has been downgraded to doubtful in this matchup, and then, of course, Bobby Wagner is questionable. These are two key cogs in the Seattle defense, both at the linebacker position, number 1 and number 2, respectively, on the team in tackles. That could be a major factor in terms of Seattle's defensive ability to perform against this good Rams offense, and particularly the running game.
And I'm just looking. I've got the Rams and Seattle inactives popping up as I go to call those up, Jimmy. The kind of action you're taking on these two big games this afternoon.
Big games, big action. That's all I can tell you. You know, in these type of games, you really don't know exactly who you need until maybe like the last 5 minutes of the game, because you have people walking in betting what I would consider huge amounts of money, which could switch you from who you needed basically 10 minutes ago. The Patriot game, so far, very simple. We go to 2.5, we get Patriot money. We go to +3, we get Steeler money. The other side with the Seattle Ram game, a great matchup. Obviously, the game is relatively close. You know, pick maybe one here and there, depending who you need late. But right now, if they kicked off right now, we would need the Rams for a real good bet, and we would also need the Steelers for a real good play.
By the way, confirmed, KJ Wright inactive for Seattle.
Big blow.
Yeah, and so that's, and just looking at the rest of the list, that's Thomas Rawls inactive. So, yeah, that's the situation now with Seattle. And in terms of the current point spreads on these games coming up. Amal, do you have that in front of you right now?
In terms of the lines coming up right now, the Seahawks are a 1-point favorite, total of 47.5 in that game. New England's still a 2.5-point favorite, total of 53. San Francisco -2.5, 44.5. And then the Sunday night game, Dallas is a 3-point favorite and a total of 46 in Oakland.
And I see actually on the Seattle game here at South Point, it's clicked to 1.5.
Yeah.
So as we look at these games, will this intensify in terms of the amount of money being bet in these final weeks? Will it intensify on certain games or across the board?
Well, certain games. And what you'll start to see, I talked about it a little bit this week, but just like preempting everybody, tell you what to look for in the next couple of weeks. We get to week 15 and 16, sometimes, not all the time, but what sometimes happens, you'll see the kickoff all the early games, and we'll stop taking bets on the later games because it's such a big difference if Team A wins or loses at 10 o'clock as opposed to what the 1 o'clock game means. So we see a lot of that, and this year won't be any different. It usually takes effect in week 15 and carries over to 16, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I wanted to ask Jimmy, they took a huge bet today on the Minnesota Vikings, I believe -12.5, and you moved that 13, 82,500 to win 75,000. Was that from a professional bettor, or was that from a recreational player? Because that seems like one of the sharpest plays I've seen in a while. I mean, Cincinnati had 42 total yards in the first half.
Yeah. Well, sometimes the term professional it's overused.
Fair enough.
If you come and you put up your money, first of all, I respect the money, no matter where it came from. Doesn't matter who it came from, it's still a lot of money. But in terms of professional, I would say he knows his way around a little better than we may be giving him credit for. That's all I can tell you. After he made his bet here, we were the first one. Made no difference. When I came in this morning at 7:30, I just go through the games and said, you're going to get money against the Bengals. And then this had nothing to do with Marvin Lewis getting fired or not playing the last couple of games. This guy always bets favorites. And he comes, and he was the first one with that type of money. Why do I know? Because when he laid the 12.5 with us, I could see the screen in front of me. There were still a lot of -11.5s here and offshore. Then we took that, and we went to 13 for a while. Didn't get much action there. But you also saw the screen lighting up. What I mean by the screen lighting up, this money showed everywhere all over town. I mean, there was 13.5s everywhere. So I would imagine he hit a couple other spots, but I would term him a semi-professional. He doesn't give his money away, and he bets lots of it. That I can tell you.
Yeah, and if you just look at the numbers we put up earlier when Westgate was reporting percentages about an hour and a half before kickoffs of the early games, we saw that the Sharps, looking at the money total, were only just on Minnesota. The public was heavily on the Vikings. Here's one that jumps off the page, though. 92% of the money was on Houston, 62% of the tickets, Ouch Sharps, and of course Jacksonville leading that game 31-7 right now. Was there a disparity in favor of Texans money here?
That was really hard to say because even though you're telling me one thing, on the other side, we need that side. So sometimes it doesn't prevail on every book also.
Right.
But in that case, yeah, it's 31-0. We had really no big decision. But what puts the Viking game really, here we go, is like when you have that type of money from that type of player, then the general public is on it. Well, that's like a 3-1 game. Like if you lose this, and we'll have to win at least 2.5 games back to get the money back.
Jimmy, as we get later into the season, particularly the next couple of weeks, will you see the money reduce in terms of how it's being spread out and kind of concentrated on teams that are playing for a postseason game? Today, Pittsburgh and New England and the Rams and Seahawks as an example.
The general public will be on the marquee teams. The smart guys will still be looking for something that's a giveaway. In other words, maybe a point and a point and a half, because not that we're falling asleep, but like they really don't draw much attention. So you wait, and then if it's pushed a little bit one way or the other, then you'll see the smarts jump in. But basically, it's general public that loves the last 2 weeks.
I think I'm a pretty smart guy. What are you guys giving away today? I didn't see any giveaways.
Well, if you laid the Vikings,
yeah, I know,
one.
right?
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. You watch these games, and I have for so many years that you see this, and we're right. We really don't know what's going to happen, but in this case, you knew what was going to happen after about 4 minutes of the first of the game when it started.
You bet 6 cents, get 5 cents free. One of those deals. Ron Flatter along with Amal Shah here on VSiN with South Point senior odds maker Jimmy Vaccaro. A number that surprised me. Tell me if it's surprised you. Over at Westgate for the New England-Pittsburgh game, and as we've mentioned, New England's laying 2.5. Actually, it's gone to 2 at Westgate.
Okay.
59% of the tickets were written on Pittsburgh, 68% of the money on New England. Now, I'm surprised. New England, a public team, but most of the tickets were written against them. Or is it a public team when you bet against them as well?
I would say so. But you know what? We see these things anymore, and I see a lot of them, and I pay attention to them. But at times, even at what you're seeing is not what you're seeing. It could look one way, but it's really the other way. At times, Jay may have got a rush, in the last 45 minutes, and all the small tickets were maybe on that, but maybe still the big money was on the other side. Let's just say this: if the Vikings weren't to play, say the Vikings were playing somebody, and it was another marquee team, and all the tickets went to the other team, but 3 guys come in from out of town and bet you $500,000 on the other team when there's 1 ticket. Sometimes this gets a little convoluted.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Sometimes you have to be careful that I know a lot of people wager based on how the numbers are spread out or the money's spread out. That's something you definitely have to be cautious about.
Yeah.
I'm seeing, as we're looking across town, looks like money coming in on Pittsburgh as the line is moving from 2.5. We mentioned it moved to 2 at Westgate. It's 2.5 with juice at Caesars. It's gone to 2 at CG Technologies. Is this what you would expect, or is it just kind of, it's going to go back and forth as we get closer to
what do we got? I was 2.5
You're still 2.5.
We're still 2.5. But there's such a long way to go here. It's just another case of like trying to tell you what goes on behind the counter. Sometimes a lot, sometimes not much. But you got 3.5 hours before this game kicks off. There could be so much coming out the way.
No, this one's coming up. No, this isn't. Yeah, the New England Pittsburgh.
It's an hour and a half.
Yeah. They didn't flex it.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half. But as you could say, it just takes 1 or 2 bets to completely throw it the other way.
Yeah.
Chris is holding at 2.5 because it's very apparent that he's going to wait if he gets a bet at 2.5, but he's not going to go to 2 until he gets one. Conversely, we may need that side right now.
Yeah, I figure if this line goes to 3, they're going to get pounded with Steeler money, and especially in a game that could be very close. And you look at both these offenses. Let's look at it from the Pittsburgh perspective. If they're down 10 late in this game, the possibility or probability of them scoring a touchdown against a prevent is so highly. That's why it's such a critical number here.
Also when we get to this time of the season, there's so much going on there. The division winners. Who's going to win? It might mean something there. How about the season win totals? If you have the Patriots at a high number, this game means a lot. If they go to about 10-4, it's going to be hard for them to get to the, obviously to go the rest of the way and win a game, because there's so much riding late that the bookmakers look at all the liability, and there is a lot of it. So you maneuver a little bit depending what your store needs, not what the screen says to some degree.
Hang on a second. We're not going to do a commercial right here. I want them all to update the scoreboard. Man, we were so surprised when the Giants jumped off to that big lead. Oh, how that didn't last. These are 60-minute games. Vikings are on their way to clinching the NFC North. Jacksonville on its way to clinching a playoff berth. And why don't you get us up to date on the scores, Amal?
Let's start with the game you referenced, the Eagles-Giants. 24-23, Philadelphia leads. 7.5 to go in the third quarter. They're threatening again as they're in the red zone. Washington in front of Arizona, 17-12, 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. You mentioned the Vikings about to win the division. I don't think the Bengals are going to come back in this one. They trailed 27-0 with a minute and a half left in the third quarter.
Well, that's close.
Jacksonville in front of Houston, 31-7, 7.5 to go in the third quarter there, and the Jags have the ball at the Texans' 1-yard line. Baltimore now in front of Cleveland, 24-10, 5.5 to go in the third quarter. My guess is Ron may have the Ravens in this one.
What makes you think that?
Just a wild guess.
No? What?
Carolina 24-14 in front of Green Bay with 6.5 to go, and Buffalo in front of Miami 24-6 with less than a minute to go in the third quarter. The only other thing I was thinking in that Browns game is you're a huge Browns fan and you want to make sure they have the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yes, I'm a huge Browns fan, and I want to see them get the number 1 pick in the draft. Ron Flatter, Amal Shah, Jimmy Vaccaro from South Point alongside. College bowl games yesterday. 4 of the 5 bowl games went the way of underdogs if you're betting against the number, and including, or if you were just betting money line in some cases.
I thought it was.
Troy was the only favorite that covered.
Troy won. Yeah, okay, that's the
and
favorite.
won 50-30. But otherwise, it was wasn't it? It was underdogs that covered. Boise
Troy was the only one that covered.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, not that a soothsayer, not that I can say the day after, but I remember talking during the course of the week. One way that some people play these bowl games, from basically the Division I teams on, it's like, just keep taking the underdog. Now, that doesn't mean run out and sell your wife to bet next week's underdog, because we're only at the 1 day. But there's a lot of guys just bet it the whole way through, and there's usually a small profit to it because at most of the time, the dogs, win an extra 3 or 4 games in the whole process.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you'll have that strategy, Amal, you missed a big edge yesterday if you're a little late on that.
Absolutely. And to Jimmy's point, if you look at these dogs yesterday, I believe all 4 of the dogs won outright, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Troy won. They were a favorite. But what I mean is the dogs that covered won the game.
A guy had a 5-teamer for 1,000, would have paid like 50-some-thousand. But the Bears was the only. He had the Bears. And what can I tell you? But you're right. It seems like they win or they get smashed. The number doesn't come into effect too much.
They're not good away from home. That's their one problem. At home, they're good at covering as dogs between 4 to 7 points, but away from home, they struggle.
The Jets were, certainly a live dog for much of the year. And as we look at them today, they're sitting there down 4 in a game where they were getting 16. So they look like they're going to go to 8-5-1 against the number at this point.
It's early, pal. I mean, see what happens. In these games now, our biggest liability. It looks like we're going to take a pretty good smack with the Viking game, but we need one of these teams to beat these early teaser games, because if everything's a carryover game, which right now is like all the teaser money's on the right teams. So we have to win the Saint game. It looked like maybe the Browns would come alive a little bit. They had that big run, and they scored the touchdown, but then they went to sleep again. But it's a long way to go, but you'd be surprised on what the hell is going on with these games as far as like the props, the money lines, and everything else.
Regardless of what I was mentioning earlier in terms of the trend on betting against New England over at Westgate, did you find here that they are still a popular teaser team despite what happened against the Dolphins?
Doesn't matter. But it does not matter. No matter what. They usually there's so much more money, but in this case, a little less because they're playing a pretty damn good team.
And parlays. I meant parlays, actually, and said teasers, but I guess the question applies.
Yeah, you know what I'll do if I don't forget, because I forget, I'm old, I forget.
Oh, listen, you're talking to a guy who's had a hell of a weekend for mistakes, okay? So
let me go check the ticket count out, and I'll come over and tell you right after the 1 o'clock start.
Okay. Mr. Von Tobel and Mr. Humans, I'm sure.
Meanwhile, I said JTV, right?
You said JTV.
Well, that's me.
Japanese television.
No, James Thomas Vaccaro.
That's JTV, yeah.
That's why I called him JTV.
JT.
Why would I do that?
People ever call you JT?
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't let that happen.
Oh, we got something special coming on tomorrow, right?
What's that?
With you and...
Not me.
No? You don't have your brother coming in?
Well, that's not special to me.
So the legendary Sonny Vaccaro of basketball fame will be in. It's special for the rest of us, but not to you.
Well,
The two of you are going to be reunited here
I've
with
known
Mr.
her for
Musburger.
78 years, you know.
Well, you're not even 78.
I'll be 72.
Yeah, but so you've known him for 78
I late
years.
6.
Yeah. You and he will be on with Mr. Musburger, My Guys in the Desert, tomorrow.
No, I won't.
You're not coming in?
No, I mean, I'll be here, but I'm not going to do that. That's silly.
Tell us how you
We
really feel.
may or may not have a Vaccaro or two
No, Sonny
tomorrow.
will be on, deservedly so. Sonny's good because he'll start going, and you'll have to lasso him. He likes to talk and talk and talk. Me, you see, you get what you get with me.
You give me the silent treatment every so
Yes,
often.
I do.
I am amused
You
by that,
deserve
by
it.
the way. I really am.
Yeah. So what's going? Yeah, Sonny's coming in tomorrow, and then we're doing some. We're taping some things like somethings of the years or whatever.
Oh yeah, we just did a couple of those. Amal and I
Oh, you
just
did?
did those. Yeah, we're putting
Rick,
it together.
what
It's a
am I- what are we
history.
doing?
It's the history of VSiN, which
3
will be
times.
Yeah, we're doing
All 3 shows.
Yeah, 3 shows. We're doing the history of VSiN, which will air on Christmas Day.
On Christmas Day.
It's a long, rich history. We were established way back in the mid 20-teens.
Christmas Day, there's a lot going on, right? I mean, Christmas Day,
There's only this one Monday night
Sunday,
game.
Christmas Eve is all
Yeah.
the games, right?
Yeah,
And then
Christmas
there's-
Day.
How many on Christmas Day?
One.
One pro game, that's it?
Yeah,
Any
and they
other-
don't play the blue-gray game
Any
anymore.
bowl games?
No.
2 bowl games?
No, I don't know. I've let it
Come
right
on,
here.
man, Mr.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
How are you getting there? Look at all these papers.
Looking. Well, I know.
You got to be like, no papers, you
Christmas
don't
Day,
lose
no
them.
bowl games.
No bowl games.
Yeah. No bowl
What I'm
games
all
Christmas
set.
Day. Just the one game, the Monday night game. And that's it. No college basketball from the 24th, 25th, and 26th. So you got a few days to take off.
They had that phony NBA game where they put like the 2.
Oh, that's right. We do have a few NBA games.
They got like
that's
those
right.
17
Phony
NBA
game.
games.
A
that they'll-
quintuple header. The Warriors will play the Cavaliers.
There you go.
There you go. All right.
Goodbye.
All right. Thank you. There goes Jimmy Vaccaro. You want to walk? You don't walk. This is a Sunday tradition. You've got to walk in front of the camera as we are going to break. What do you want me to talk about, Greg? I know you always want me to talk about something. There he goes. What do you have for me?
While we're on the topic of football, how about if we promote our wonderful bowl guide?
Yeah, and by the way, not for nothing, not to sound like a shill on this. Oh, Amal's walked off camera there. When you were walking away for it, just as I start talking about the bowl guide.
I thought they're going to put it up on the screen.
They will. Why don't you wait till they do that before you walk off? Make another in-game play. The first ever VSiN bowl guide is out. Now you can go. It's 102 pages and certainly still very good for you to use. You have 5 bowl games down, but 34 to go, plus the championship game. We have previews of all of them, power rankings, analytics, stats, analysis, trends. Brent Musburger, Steve Makinen picking teams and totals for the 39 games, so against the spread and the over-under number. The VSiN Bowl Guide, still very useful, and believe me, it came in handy yesterday. For just $19.99, it's yours. And if you subscribe to Point Spread Weekly already, it's yours for free. Get all the details at vsin.com/bowl guide. Here comes the camera again, Amal. All right, coming up next, we will have a little conversation about college basketball, NBA, NHL. We'll kind of bundle it all together. You want to give us did you do the updates yet?
I did.
Oh, okay. That's where I heard them. So that'll be next on VSiN.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive. You are back in the VSiN Green Zone. Sign up for our daily newsletter and watch the show at VSiN.com. Now back to Las Vegas and the VSiN studios.
They are under 8 minutes in the first half at Knoxville. Tennessee leading North Carolina 29-23. Tar Heels went into that game a 1-point favorite. Amal, late games. In fact, Craig Ferguson, our basketball guru here, also behind the glass in the penalty box. Stand by. I'm going to ask your opinion for a game to bet on later today. Do you have one later today, Amal, that you'd look at and noodle it around as to whether you'd put a little coin on it?
Maybe the Stanford game. That's a matchup I like. The other one I was looking
Stanford playing USC.
USF.
Or USF, pardon me. San Francisco will be a 7-point dog visiting Maples Pavilion.
And then the other one I was looking at the total in the Ino St. John's game. I just want to make sure Marcus Levette is back for the Johnnies. He's questionable today with an ankle injury.
That game's, the numbers moved on that around town. It's at 9.5 now. St. John's favored at home against Iona. That's actually at the Garden, right? I think that's a doubleheader at the Garden.
Yeah. But I was actually looking at the total in that matchup.
153.
Excuse me. The Gales are a team that'll put up some points. Sure, it could be a shootout. And St. John's is a team that get up and down, but I have some concerns without Marcus Levette in the lineup for them, so I'm probably going to lay off that one.
What about you, Greg? Do you have games you're looking at today?
The one I was actually looking at as far as the late games, because most of my action was coming early today, was actually that St. John's versus Iona game. If Iona can get at least 10 points, that's something I'd really look at, because Iona's a team that we've seen them in the past play very competitively, and I think that St. John's, while they have quite a few wins on their resume, they're not quite there yet.
I'm just looking about Levette, and I don't see anything yet.
Yeah, he's still questionable.
Okay.
So it would be a game-time decision.
All right. NBA-wise, anything? I know it's a very limpid schedule of NBA games, with the exception, of course, of Cleveland at Washington, and that game coming up tonight.
Yeah, nothing really standing out. The one game I think Jared was on, he mentioned earlier about the Detroit game against Orlando. No Aaron Gordon, no Evan Fournier. That's big. Those two guys combined to average about 36 points a game for the Magic. I think this is going to be a tough spot for Orlando going on the road, taking on the Pistons.
Yeah, and you mentioned Jared Zwirling from SI was on earlier. Detroit's a 9-point favorite at home against Orlando. Game coming up in about 40 minutes or so. Washington at home against Cleveland. The marquee matchup of the day, you'd have to say. And that one is Washington favored by 2. Quick note on hockey. Golden Knights are home tonight for the Panthers. They'll be favored.
I like the Knights in this matchup. Jared Gallant, who was fired by the Panthers last year, this is one where they play for the coach, and I expect to see a great effort out of the Knights at home here tonight. And also another advantage is, look, let's be realistic about this. You're the Florida Panthers. You're in Las Vegas on a Saturday night. I don't think too many guys are staying in their hotel room.
No, this is the old Vegas flu they could be suffering from.
Absolutely.
Knights minus 175 favorite.
Oh, it's gone up. Okay, because it opened at 160.
Yeah, total 6 shaded to the under, depending on where you bet. Here at South Point, shaded to the under, and you have to lay 6 to 5 juice if you go in that direction. Good matchups in the NHL. Really good matchups in the NHL. St. Louis at Winnipeg. Jets favored at home, minus 140. Minnesota at Chicago. The Blackhawks a minus 180. Calgary at Vancouver. That one is a pick'em. 7 of the 8 teams playing today have winning records.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind, though, in the Minnesota-Chicago matchup is they're going to have the backup goaltender in tonight, so that could have an impact in terms of if you're looking at betting that game. So just keep that in, take that into consideration as Alex Stalock is going to get the start there today.
Yeah, Corey Crawford in for the pipes, between the pipes for Chicago. I've got Allen against Hellebuck for St. Louis, Winnipeg. Is that what you have?
Yes.
Smith and Markstrom for Calgary at Vancouver.
I've got Rittich going, so check on that one.
You may have that more up. That yours is probably more up to date because I compiled this last night.
Yeah.
And Reimer against Fleury for the Panthers and the Knights.
Correct.
Okay, so just that one. All right, we'll come back in a moment. Why don't you give the scores before I get too far along here? So we're getting right down to the nitty and the gritty in the NFL's early games.
Let's start with the close ones so far. Carolina leads Green Bay 24-17 nearing the end of the third quarter. And then the Giants are about to go for a 2-point conversion. 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. They trailed 31-29. Washington in front of Arizona 17-15 with 9.5 to play there. Arizona with 5 field goals today. Also, Buffalo leads Miami 24-6, 9.5 to go in the fourth quarter. Baltimore in front of Cleveland 27-10 minute into the fourth quarter. Jacksonville just crushing Houston 38-7, 3.5 to go in the third quarter. Minnesota leads Cincinnati 34-0, 13 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. New Orleans in a close one against the Jets, 17-13 at the end of 3.
All right, we'll talk more NFL in a moment. Patriots and Steelers are not the only two teams playing a big game in the next hour. Derek Klassen from Bleacher Report and Football Outsiders joins us next on VSiN.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive. You are back in the VSiN Green Zone. Sign up for our daily newsletter and watch the show at VSiN.com. Now back to Las Vegas and the VSiN studios.
And while we're getting you to sign up, why don't we get you to buy something? Because we're always selling something. So buy. We love money around here in Vegas. And you love our merchandise. I know it. It's the VSiN store, and we're getting a lot of traffic on that. Cyber traffic, of course, because, the last time I saw anybody actually trying to sell something here, it was out of the back of a mall's car. And we can't talk about what was there. The legitimate VSiN store, shirts and hats and beanies and stuff, with all sorts of gambling references on the shirts and hats and beanies and stuff, plus the VSiN logo, which is, of course, based on the Las Vegas welcome sign. The shirt we're showing you right now on the app and on the website, legalize it. That's a message to you folks in the Supreme Court. 9 of you. Go to vsin.com/store, use the discount code Holiday Sale, and get 20% off during the Tis the Season. vsin.com/store for your holiday shopping. Ron Flatter and Amal Shaw, and joined now by Derek Klassen, the NFL analyst for Bleacher Report and Football Outsiders. So let's dive into the late games, Derek. Certainly 2 really tantalizing ones. We'll start with New England taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and so the Steelers have the game edge right now. But each team has some concerns injury-wise. Of course, you've got, in fact, both teams' defenses have some injury concerns. So how do you evaluate this particular game in which the Patriots will be coming in the favorite by 2.5?
Well, and they should be the favorite. I think, this is a game that's supposed to be a rivalry, but never really ends up being that way. The Patriots kind of always dominate this game, and part of it is because they always do such a good job of taking away Le'Veon Bell, and Le'Veon Bell's obviously the engine to that Steelers offense, and obviously Antonio Brown's a great talent, but if you can take away Le'Veon Bell, both in the running game and take him away as a pass-catching option, which they really like to do, and force Roethlisberger to throw down the field, I think that's when Roethlisberger is starting to have problems, especially as of late. And so if they can do that, and then like you mentioned, with some injuries in this game, obviously Ryan Shazier is going to be out for the Steelers. I think Brady's going to have a bounce-back game. Last week against the Dolphins was kind of an aberration. He always struggles in Miami, which is a really weird trend for him. But I think he's going to be able to bounce back, and he's been playing at an MVP caliber this season. And so I think he's going to be able to bounce back and do that against the Steelers. And I think the Patriots are going to take this one, as they often do.
Derek, you mentioned the loss of Ryan Shazier. I thought that would have a huge impact on Pittsburgh defensively. Gronkowski comes back off the suspension for New England. How do you think this plays out? Because he's one of the fastest linebackers in the National Football League from sideline to sideline.
Oh, absolutely. And he's really good in coverage. He's developed that skill, I think, the longer he's been in the league. He can really drop into his zones really fast, and I think he's gotten better at, shifting through those zones and making sure to pick up tight ends and match coverages and stuff like that. And so not being able to have him over the middle of the field against an incredible talent like Rob Gronkowski, I think that's going to give them some problems. I think it's going to force Pittsburgh to try to condense the middle of the field, maybe play some more cover 3 coverages, cover 1, maybe some Rob over the middle of the field. And it's going to be able to open up some of those one-on-one matchups on the boundary for Tom Brady.
And, of course, and by the way, no Chris Hogan for Brady. So remember, he's out of the game.
That's a big blow.
Coming into this one. One other note on this game before we, I don't want to isolate everything on this game. We'll certainly go to others. New England, and I got to disagree with Brent on this. He says you can't predict turnovers. New England's a +7 in the giveaway takeaway. Pittsburgh's a dead even ±0. Here's where you can predict turnovers. And I know he had 5 in one game, but Ben Roethlisberger has thrown for 13 interceptions this season. Do the New England injuries mitigate that on the Pittsburgh side? And you say, well, that's fine, but he's not facing as tough a defense today.
The Patriots defense has been really weird. Obviously, they opened up the season in a horrible stretch, and they struggled against Miami recently, but they've been able to piece together a couple of good games. Belichick defenses are always, maybe if they start off a little weak, they're able to kind of bounce back toward the later end of the year. And so I think we could see them have a decent performance today. Like you said, he's had some games where he gets very reckless. He's been able to rely on Antonio Brown very well, and obviously he's been able to rely on hitting Bell out of the backfield. But like I said, the Patriots are going to really take Bell away and force Roethlisberger to hold the ball, throw the ball down the field. And I think that's how you end up games where, he's throwing 5 interceptions against the Jaguars. So we could see a situation like that today.
We're joined by Derek Klassen on Skype. Where are you, Derek, by the way?
Visalia, California, near the Central Valley, yeah.
Oh, where about?
Visalia, which is...
Yeah, no, I know where that is.
About Oh, like where in Visalia?
No. I don't want. I don't
okay.
want like specific room in the house or anything like that. No. I'm just curious. I know the Central Valley very well.
Awesome.
Yeah. No. I grew up in Chico. But enough about Old Home Week. Ron Flatter and Amal Shah here on VSiN, joined by Derek, talking about the NFL. He writes for Bleacher Report and Football Outsiders. Let's get to one of the other big games: Rams at Seattle, and the Seahawks at home, favored by 1. They beat the Rams back on October 8th at the Coliseum, 16-10. So this one is, look, if Seattle wins this one, they get the tiebreaker locked up against the Rams. If the Rams win, then they're up 2. So as we go into this one, so much talk about Russell Wilson and what he can do single-handedly. How do you evaluate this game?
I think the big difference between what we saw last time with Rams Seahawks, and obviously that was a good game, and versus this one is that this Seahawks defense, it's banged up. I know Bobby Wagner's back and active, but it's really hard to tell what you're going to get out of him, even though he's been very good when he's healthy this year. It's always tough to tell what you're going to get, when a guy's first coming off of injury. I mean, we're seeing it today with Aaron Rodgers. He's already thrown 3 interceptions. So if Bobby Wagner is good, I think we're going to see a really close game again. But if this Rams offense can get clicking, and I think they're going to be able to against, like I said, a Seahawks defense that's they're not up to their standard right now. And so I think McVay's going to come in. They always score off their script. They always do really well to open games. And I think, like I said, with this kind of diminished Seahawks defense, Sean McVay should be able to cook up an offense where they can kind of, piece together scoring drives kind of here and there and force Russell Wilson into a shootout game, which obviously we've seen him win this year. But, Russell Wilson has said that Aaron Donald is one of the best players he's ever played against. And so obviously he's going to lead a defense that I think is going to give Russell Wilson some problems today, and I think it's going to be a little tough for him to keep up in a shootout.
Yeah, to what Derek's point is about the injuries, KJ Wright is officially inactive for the Hawks today. Bobby Wagner is a game-time decision, but he is active. Also, Teddy Bridgewater made his debut today for the Minnesota Vikings. Did have an interception here in the fourth quarter as he came in.
In the game they're going to win.
Yeah, that's true. Derek, staying on this game, you mentioned in terms of it's going to be a shootout. I think it should be a fairly high scoring. Weather could play a factor, but my one concern is for Seattle. They have no running game. How long can they continue to expect Russell Wilson to be able to just spin this fourth quarter magic?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, we saw it just this last week where the Jaguars were able to force Russell Wilson into a game where he couldn't put the game on his shoulders against the defense that was maybe the best in the league. And obviously, I don't know if any quarterback can do that. But this Rams defense is good, especially up front. They have Aaron Donald. Obviously, they like to blitz Alec Ogletree a lot. They're a very aggressive defense that can get after the quarterback. Even guys like Matt Longacre at defensive end, pretty underrated. He's been able to get to the quarterback this year. Obviously, you have guys like Tremaine Johnson at cornerback, John Johnson at safety. He's a rookie. He's been very impressive. So this is a pretty quality Rams defense, and I think they're going to force this Seahawks Seahawks offense. Like you said, I think it's going to be slow starting. They're not going to be able to run the ball, and they're going to kind of force this game to be a fourth quarter, shootout, late game type of thing. And like I said, I'm just not sure if I trust the Seahawks the way that their roster is right now to win this one.
Before we get to a couple other games that we haven't talked about yet, hang on just a second. We're talking with Derek Klassen, the NFL analyst from Bleacher Report and Football Outsiders. Let me have them all run down the scores right now, and then we'll jump back on these Bay Area games for you. Stand by.
All games are in the fourth quarter. Buffalo leads Miami 24-13, 6.5 to play. Carolina in front of Green Bay, 31-17, 10 minutes to go. Baltimore in front of Cleveland, 27-10, 11 minutes to go. Jacksonville in front of Houston, 38-7, 13.5 to go. It's New Orleans in front of the Jets, 17-13 with 11 minutes to go. Philadelphia in front of the Giants, 31-29, 14 minutes to go. And Washington in front of Arizona, 20-15, 4.5 to go.
All right, so let's continue now with Derek Klassen from Bleacher Report and Football Outsiders here on VSiN. Tonight's game, Dallas visiting the Raiders, and the Cowboys find themselves a 3-point favorite coming into play Oakland, which just, it can look god-awful at times. So can Dallas bridge the gap now between this week and when they get Ezekiel Elliott back next week? Can they actually show up and make themselves worthy of the playoff contender they have at times looked like?
I think they can, because obviously with Ezekiel Elliott out, the big story has been that Dak's not been able to carry this offense, and obviously I think there's a lot of other factors that go into that. You know, they missed Tyron Smith for a little bit, and even when he was healthy, he wasn't very good when he had first gotten back. Their receiving options aren't very good right now. Jason Witten is just a shell of himself. But if there's any defense that can make any quarterback, any passing offense look good, it's this Oakland Raiders team. So I think Dak is going to be able to build on the good performance that he had last week against the Giants. I think he's going to be able to come out and force Derek Carr to put up some points on the other side of the ball. And just the way that this Raiders offense has been playing this year, it's been underwhelming. They've not been able to score, I think, the way that they hoped. Derek Carr has been kind of inaccurate. Obviously, I think coming off of an injury from last season has hurt him. But offensive coordinator calls just haven't been as good this year. So I think this is a very winnable game for Dallas. And like you said, it keeps them in the playoff hunt if they win this one. And then they'll get Zeke back next week. So you win this game, you really keep yourself in a good position for the playoffs.
Derek, I want to turn our attention to a game that's not getting a lot of attention. Tennessee takes on the 49ers in San Francisco.
What, they're playing?
Yeah.
Really?
49ers, a 2.5-point favorite, total of 44 in this one. Marcus Mariota's really been struggling down the stretch. Can this team go on the road and win in San Francisco? And Garoppolo seems like he might be the long-term solution for the 49ers.
I'm not really sure Tennessee can win this one. I know they have, I think, 8 wins on the year, but they're a very fraudulent team. They've gotten kind of lucky with some close games. They've beaten bad teams when they've won. Like you said, Mariota's really having a down year. I think a lot of the injuries that he's had both last year and kind of this year have really piled up on him. I don't think the offense that they run is very fit to what he needs to be doing. I think they need to be doing more gun and pistol looks. But anyway, I think this is a game that the San Francisco 49ers are going to win because, like you said, Jimmy Garoppolo looks very good. He looks like the future of this offense. I don't know if they're going to put up, 30, 35 points, but I think they should be able to put up enough to outpace the Tennessee offense that really struggled last week against an Arizona defense that doesn't quite look like itself. And the San Francisco defense is a little bit underrated. Tennessee likes to run the ball and assert their offense that way, but the San Francisco 49ers defense has been very good as of late. At defending the run. I think defensive coordinator Robert Saleh has really figured out this defense, and obviously having Reuben Foster in the lineup now has really helped them defend the run. And they have some decent pieces in the secondary. Adrian Colbert, he's a rookie, he's doing very well. Akello Witherspoon also doing very well at cornerback. So I think this San Francisco 49ers team, they really just needed a quarterback to look super competitive, and I think they're there now, and, obviously they're not going to accomplish anything this year, but they can win this game.
Garoppolo's 4-0 as a starter, baby. He's 4-0 as a starter. Jimmy Garoppolo fever. Catch it while you can. Before I forget, with the Marvin Lewis news that he's going to be out at Cincinnati at the end of this season, what other coaches do you see likely headed out, just off the top of your head?
I would like to see Mike Mularkey out. I think.
No, not like to see. I mean, yeah, we can start. I can start with my friend over here in McCarthy in Green Bay, but let's see. The ones that we actually think might happen. Yeah.
You would think Hugh Jackson, but that just doesn't seem like it's going to happen for whatever reason. I don't understand why that's not happening. Todd Bowles, I think even though the Jets have really overperformed this year, it's really been because of the offense and not the defense. And I think you can say maybe this team overperformed, and that's great for Todd Bowles this year. But if you're really talking about a team moving forward, I just don't think Todd Bowles is the right fit, and I think we could see the Jets ownership
really
look at it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, I've really clamored for their offensive coordinator, John Morton. He does a lot of air raid stuff that's really impressive. He's of that Sean Payton tree. He was the offensive coordinator in New Orleans last year, so I think he's really the engine for that Jets team.
My friend JVT over here, big Colts fan. He held up his phone, had a Colts logo on it. Pagano.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest one where it seems like he's out.
All right. Tell us where we find your work.
Yeah, you can find me at QB Class on Twitter, QBKLASS, Bleacher Report, Football Outsiders. I also do some draft stuff for at Optimum Scouting, and I write about some quarterbacks on 2QBs.
2 QBs, like the number 2?
TWO and then QBS.
Oh, okay. 12 QBs. All right.
Yes.
Love it. All right. Derek, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us here on VSiN.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, fellas. Have a good one.
That's Derek Klassen from the beautiful Central Valley of California. I know Visalia. They used to have a minor league baseball team there, the Oaks, eons ago. I don't know if it's still there. I don't know if anything's still there. They don't let me into the area. We'll come back and check overall betting trends from the early games in the NFL, and we'll tee it up for JVT and Matt Humans next on VSiN.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive. You are back in the VSiN Green Zone. Sign up for our daily newsletter and watch the show at VSiN.com. Now back to Las Vegas and the VSiN studios.
Ron Flatter, Amal Shah. Well, let's check betting trends on the early games. I'll give the current score. Amal will give the line history as the game went. Yesterday we saw underdogs go 4 out of 5 in the bowl game, so let's see how it's going right now. Starting with an underdog is covering at the moment in New Jersey, Philadelphia, with 11 minutes to go, leading the Giants 31-29.
Yeah, that line closed at 7.40.5. If you have the over in this game, obviously it was over a long time ago, actually in the first half.
Green Bay at Carolina. Panthers have extended their lead to 31-17 with 6 minutes to go.
Line closed at 2.5, 47. So the game went over and looks like Carolina's going to cover, but still, with Aaron Rodgers, you never know.
The Vikings, with Teddy Bridgewater having come into the game for his first action in an eon, they find themselves with 3.5 minutes to go. They're going to win it, and they are up 34-7 on the Bengals. And by the way, with the win, the Vikings will clinch the NFC North.
Yeah, this one went over the total there. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 43. I looked at the wrong one. It's under, but obviously the Vikings got the easy cover here at the closing line of 13.
Also, with the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills inside 3 minutes to go, Buffalo out in front, 24-13.
Total of 40, line of 3.5 in this one. It'll be interesting if Miami's able to get a touchdown. Obviously, it would take the game over. Then they'll probably go. They would go for 2. So the line could come into play here.
Jacksonville and Houston, ain't gonna be no line coming into play here. Jacksonville with 10.5 minutes to go, leading the Texans 45-7.
Yeah, the game flew over. Went over comfortably, and then Jacksonville absolutely crushed the 10.5.
Yeah, I understand. CBS actually joining us in mid-game, actually, because that game got so lopsided. Also, it's the Jets and the Saints with 6 minutes and 10 seconds left in that one, and the Saints lead it 24-13.
This is one of these games where the total is 46.5, so it looks like it'll probably stay under. But if you've got the Saints in this game and they've not been able to cover the entire game, all of a sudden you could see a pick six situation. All of a sudden they get a backdoor cover.
Yeah, two teams going nowhere. However, they're in a tight one inside 2 minutes. Washington leading Arizona 20-15.
Well, Washington has the football. Arizona's on defense. So if they get the ball back and they score a touchdown, the game will go over, and they'll be able to cover the 4 here.
And the game that one of us is more interested in than any other game, Baltimore at Cleveland. Ravens lead this one 27-10.
Yeah, this one's still under the total of 42.5. Line was 6.5. Ron, I think you're looking pretty good right now.
All right. By the way, Jacksonville, with its win, will clinch a playoff berth. So that means the teams that will have clinched it and gotten into the tournament, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, they will be in, and we will add Minnesota to Philadelphia. The Eagles can still clinch home field advantage through the NFC playoffs if they win, and that's not going to happen because they needed a Minnesota loss to Cincinnati. So they'll get a first round bye with a win if they can manage to hold on in a game that's still very much up for grab against the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one other thing I want to update real quick is money's been coming in on the Rams right now. That game has now gone to the Rams of Pick'em and a couple other places around town. The Rams are a 1-point favorite. Total still holding steady at 47.5 across the city.
Look at this. That's very interesting. The Rams are a 1-point favorite at the Wynn and at the Coasts.
Yep.
They are a 1-point dog still at CG and Stations.
Oh, okay.
And everywhere else, they look like they're a pick'em. Just moved to a pick'em again at Golden Nugget. So there's that. New England, a 2-point favorite, 2 to 2.5 is the number as far as the Patriots are concerned for their visit to Pittsburgh. And the 49ers, pretty solid 2.5-point favorite at home against Tennessee. The late game, Dallas still a 3-point favorite at Oakland, but of course we would expect to see most of the steam coming as they would get closer to game time there. So
yeah, I mean, this is look, we got 2 of the best games of the year going this afternoon in about 10 to about 25 minutes. So this is going to be a fantastic late afternoon game. I'm going to try and rush home and get ready for that New England-Pittsburgh game.
How far do you have to go home?
Depending on lights, about 7 minutes.
Do you run them?
Depending on the time of day.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
3 in the morning, I'm not sitting at traffic lights.
Oh, man. You know, I have a cop friend on Twitter.
Hey, that's fine.
All right. JVT, Matt Humans, continue in the green zone next on VSiN.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive.
You are entering the VSiN Green Zone, exclusively broadcasting on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Interact with the show on Twitter at VSiNLive and keep up to date with the latest in sports gaming news at vsin.com. Now, here are your guides through the zone, Jonathan Von Tobel and Matt Youmans.
All right, a slow-moving day in the NFL. Usually, Matt Youmans, when we come up at this time, there's probably about maybe 2 games left going on. But right now, essentially every single game, 1-game final, and didn't even have to sweat it. The Minnesota Vikings just beat the snot out of the I was about to say the Cleveland Browns, but there's really no difference at this point.
Both teams, the teams in the state of Ohio, both
dead in the water.
Stink, and you're right, dead in the water at this point. The Bengals go down without a fight. And how about those Browns?
Oh, yeah, the Browns, who had a slight lead. I think it was, 7-3.
Yeah.
Thought, all right, here we go. Browns are going to fight back. They even had a chance because I believe it was a 24-10. They were driving downfield. Looked like they were going to come in, maybe sneak in and get you a push of some sort or anything. Ultimately doesn't. Well, it's still going on now. It doesn't look like it's going to work out, though. But, yes, the Vikings beat up the Cincinnati Bengals 34-7, your final score there. And speaking of a game where a team just scores 7 points, how about the Jacksonville Jaguars with just about 7.5 minutes to go? 45-7 over the TJ Yates-led Houston Texans. Not even a pulse for Houston tonight or today, whatever you want to call it, against Jacksonville. And I got to tell you, I was looking ahead to the final week of the season. Tennessee Titans, Jacksonville Jaguars. Remember, everyone was talking, oh, the Titans, remember the first time they won? They beat the snot out of the Jags.
They did.
It was a 6-3 game and a half, and I'm going to hold serve here that in Week 17, it is going to be another bloodbath, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to beat the crap out of the Titans. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Jaguars are making a statement here. Get your Super Bowl futures bets in now.
Yep.
If you haven't already. Philadelphia Eagles down. Had a chance.
That's a big one, too.
Punch in a touchdown. Stopped at the 2-yard line, so Eagles probably going to kick a field goal here.
It's huge.
How about the Redskins close out a 20-15 victory over the Cards? So you had the Cards and the points. You're out of luck there.
Now, that's a huge stop for the New York Giants, considering the point spread of about 7.5. So New York forcing a field goal in this spot. I thought it was the Giants earlier, they score a touchdown, and they cut it 31-21, which is the score now. Ben McAdoo. Spagnuolo and the Giants, for some reason, go for 2 to tie the game up at 31. I want to get your opinion, because to me, there's no difference. 31-31 or 31-30. Either way, you're in a spot where a field goal will win the game for you. If you come downfield, you hold the Eagles, if you hold them pat. To me, it was a little odd. Now you're down 31-29, field goal here. You're going to need a touchdown if you want to win if you're the Giants.
Down 2 with the Giants going to have limited scoring opportunities. I think you have to go for 2 to go ahead and try to tie the game there.
Okay, all right. And then 31-23, it looks like the Packers just scored a touchdown. So we're going to have an interesting decision coming down to the stretch here. 2 minutes, 43 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter between these two teams. Aaron Rodgers, 3 interceptions today. Looked like he was really trying to force stuff downfield, trying to get his team. And he was actually playing somewhat well. We were talking about it at the poker table. 3 interceptions, and yet at one point they were still down by a touchdown. Kept them in it, and now you're down by a touchdown again. Panthers were about to closed here at the South Point and other spots, a 3-point favorite.
31-24 now, 2:43 left. Obviously, the Packers have to try an onside kick. They have no timeouts left.
Yep.
So that's going to be upcoming here. Aaron Rodgers rusty today. You could see it, but he took some hits. He fell on that shoulder, and I thought he bounced back okay. So you have to be encouraged by that. The key thing in that game is the Green Bay defense, which we talked about yesterday, just was not good enough to hold down Cam and the Panthers. And, on a day when Rodgers throws 3 picks, really the Packers are lucky to be within 1 score right now with 3 minutes to go.
Yep, that is absolutely correct. And then 51 seconds of running. Hugh Jackson staring another loss in the face. 27-10 right now. 3rd and 11. The Baltimore Ravens going to kneel this one out, win the game. And yet again, the Cleveland Browns do not cover. And still, was it in the Gold or the Classic? I'll have to get the notes out of my backpack. Still a top 10 pick, I think, in the Gold. The Cleveland Browns were in terms of taking the points.
I did play the Ravens this week.
Yes, you did.
I have not played against the Browns too many times, but this week I went ahead and said I'm gonna lay the 7 with the Ravens. They've been playing some pretty good football during the past 6 games. When the Ravens were 4-2, they had averaged 31.3 points per game. I think the Packers just got the onside kick.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So here you go, 31-24, 2 minutes and 43 seconds left. Again, Panthers close as a 3-point favorite, and Aaron Rodgers gets a chance to work his magic again. And I got to say, I know we don't know what's going to happen, but a game in which you pick off Aaron Rodgers 3 times, and you're still going to come down to the wire here. Not a great performance in terms of taking advantage of some good opportunities for the Carolina Panthers.
No, not at all. And in fact,
Then a turnover already in this game,
Christian McCaffrey is a guy who lets the ball get away here.
Yep.
Did you see that?
No, sorry. I was watching one
right
game
here.
just
Now it's
started.
like, look at McCaffrey.
Oh,
whiffed.
just dove over
the
it.
rookie
What's
whiffed on the onside kick.
Oh.
And Packers going to have the ball. Aaron
Mike
Rodgers
McCarthy, the genius.
has to work his magic.
Yep, Mike McCarthy knew it was coming the whole time. He was ready to go. Oh, yes. Relegated to the bench.
I will give the Packers credit for this.
Mm-hmm.
That was a much better executed onside kick than the Patriots tried on Monday night.
By the way, early turnover here in this game that just kicked off. Seahawks and Rams. A fumble by Seattle. Seahawks St. Louis. LA jumps on top of it. First play for them. They gouge the Seahawks for a decent run there for Todd Gurley. Already in Seahawks territory. Scoreless, though. 13:25 left to go. And we bring this up because interesting movement on the line here. And we have some multiple interesting moves on these lines later. But right now, the Rams, they closed as a pick over at the Westgate. All of a sudden today, some influx of money on the Rams come in. So now you close at pick or -1 in some spots. This had, remember, gotten it up to as high as Seattle -2.5 in some spots. And the Rams close, and it's a pick, essentially, in some spots around town.
All right, I played the Rams in this game. We got the Rams +2. We'll see if the line even matters in this game. But looks like I'm going to take a loss with the Eagles laying the points today. Got I played the Ravens, the Rams, and the Eagles in the games. Early games are the games in progress so far. I decided not to play. I did play the Steelers +3 in the Super Contest, but did not bet it. I found out later that that's one of your biggest bets of the year.
Oh, man. Stone cold lead pipe lock of the year, of the week, as Carl would like to say. And yes, it is. Look, I really like the Patriots in this spot, and it's intriguing, too, because, again, we go over to the Westgate and other spots around town, all the way down to Pittsburgh, catching 2 points. So the Steelers now, as we get closer to game time, have gotten some action as well.
Ooh, the Eagles almost had a pick 6.
Well, that's why when you said that it looks like you're going to lose. It's still the Giants, and there's still plenty of time.
Well, there's a thing called the reverse jinx, my friend. You got to throw out there once in a while.
Oh, you've done it to me.
Huh?
You did it to me. Did it to me. Even though it didn't work.
That's called a jinx. That's called a jinx.
Yeah.
And you're trying to reverse jinx yourself. But
yeah, the Giants are going to blow
if this makes you feel any better, the Browns were bet down to +6.5 at the Westgate today, so that sharp money on the Browns really paid off there. It looks like some sharp money showing up on the Steelers at the Westgate as well. So the sharp money doesn't necessarily tell you how the game's going to turn out, right?
Not at all. Like you said, and a good play by Eli Manning and the Giants flag in the secondary. It looks like it might be a hold or a pass interference on the Eagles, so I don't think that'll come back. But no, you're right. You can just look anytime, and I said this during one of our shows, like right before we signed off, anytime you see sharp money going against your thought, just remember that the Browns are one of the best sharp teams around. They just love betting on Cleveland, and at some point you just got to punt on that one. But ultimately, they do not. And we have not touched on this, so we got to get to this. What about Bryce Petty? Petty and the Jets, a very impressive performance, down to 24-13, and here they are with the ball, 2-minute warning, getting the opportunity to drive down and cut it to a 4-point game. It looks relatively safe in terms of covering 15.5 points, but Petty and the Jets turning in a relatively solid performance.
Well, I think it's also a combination of Petty, having a week of practice, looking a little bit better than we expected, and the Saints kind of asleep at the wheel today. It's not a huge game. The Saints are not going to take the Jets that seriously when they got 2 division games on deck, and that's, I think, the situation we've seen play out today is one team just kind of coasting through the game, and the Jets may be showing up with a little bit more than we thought they would today.
Yes, yeah, I'm with you. I will say, though, watching it, there was one that set him up for a 1st and goal. Petty had his running back running down the sidelines, put it on the money. He's made some good throws. Right. He's also made some odd throws, like a one-on-one situation with Robbie Anderson, where it's a situation where you want to put the ball up as opposed to throw a bullet into both of them. Doesn't do it. So you see little things here and there, but a relatively solid performance. Giants, by the way, keep driving. They had a 2nd and 6. Looks like they convert the 1st down. They're in Eagles territory, down 5.
If you have to say 2 things about this, or 3 things about this Eagles-Giants game.
Yeah.
Nick Foles has played really well.
Yeah.
Eli Manning has lit it up today for the most part after that report surfaced. The Giants executives believe Eli is, quote, done.
Look at him slinging it down.
Now he's a gunslinger today. And the third is the Philadelphia defense has got some problems.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we saw it last week against the Rams. We're seeing it today against the Giants. Now, I do know this is a bad spot for the Eagles. They're on the road for the 3rd consecutive Sunday, but this defense has not been very good the past few weeks, especially the last 2 weeks, and that's going to be a concern as well. I think Nick Foles has shown this team can win with him at quarterback, but the defense is going to have to play a lot better than this.
Well, and you saw, remember, go back to, and it was a dominant performance, but go back to that Broncos game. They won 51-23. The Broncos actually had like minimal success on offense, and I think that front 7 really masks a whole lot of issues behind them because they just pressure quarterbacks like crazy. But I'm with you. If you face an adequate offense, they give up some points, and that's not going to help. And you mentioned Nick Foles. It's great. I've already seen it on Twitter. So going into the matchup, it was Nick Foles is nowhere near Carson Wentz, blah, 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 blah. He's not good at all. Then he slings 4 touchdowns, actually looks very good in this game. And it's like, it's the Giants. Like, the kid can't win. I'm with you. I think he's a solid. If you're going to have a backup have to come in and play multiple games, I would have Nick Foles. Look at some of the situations that some of these teams are in. Just the Texans, for example. TJ Yates and Tom Savage behind Deshaun Watson. That's a backup quarterback that you want.
Oh, yeah, a guy who's led a team to a division title, right?
Yeah.
As the Eagles did in 2013 with Chip Kelly. It's interesting just to watch Eli Manning sit back and pick apart the Eagles. They're playing soft coverage. And you got Doug Peterson. This is another thing I'll say about this. Doug Peterson has got a lot to learn in terms of game management, when to challenge calls, what to call when he goes for it on 4th down. Peterson often comes off as a buffoon.
Yeah, I was going to say clown, but yeah. I'm with you.
And that's another problem the Eagles have to deal with here.
By the way, so do we have a fumble in this game for the Panthers and the Packers? It looks like something happened in here. So it looks like a completion, and then that could be probably ruled an incomplete pass. It was a quick completion, and then maybe half a second later, turns upfield. Actually, I think that's a fumble. He catches it, turns upfield, makes a football move, as they like to say.
Greg Peterson says incompletion. I think that's a catch and a fumble, but of course this is the NFL, so we got to have a 7-minute replay here before we come up with a controversial decision.
All right, well then let's take a break, see if we have a controversial decision at hand in this one. When we come back, we'll update you on the line move and of course preview the Steelers and Patriots. Also, I want to get Matt Human's thoughts. I made the joke yesterday, right? There's only one L in Phillip Rivers. Well, it belongs to Rivers and the Chargers. That was a brutal performance last night.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive. You are back in the VSiN Green Zone. Sign up for our daily newsletter and watch the show at VSiN.com. Now back to Las Vegas and the VSiN studios.
All right, well, no controversial decision here. The fumble, it was ruled a fumble on the field for the Green Bay Packers. It is confirmed that it is a fumble on the field for the Green Bay Packers. It is final, 31-24, your final score there. Panthers get the win, get the cover, and for the most part, looks like the Packers are eliminated from playoff contention.
Yeah, I think that's a big mistake by the league there. You have to, like I said, David Stern never would have allowed something like this to happen. You want Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs, and you don't want Jerry Richardson in the playoffs. So the pass should have been an incomplete pass. Packers still alive. That was screwed up by the league right there.
In the words of DJ Khaled, congratulations, you played yourself. NFL, come on, man, you can't do that. All right, Jared Goff and the L.A. Rams, they tacked on a field goal. Seattle Seahawks went 3 and out. So L.A. has the ball back, 11 minutes left to go, and they're going to go ahead, of course, and try to tack on a couple more points against the Legion of Room, I guess you could call it, considering that a lot of these stars are injured. It's worth pointing out that Bobby Wagner is active today and on the field, so there was question marks about him, whether he'd play or not. Gave it a go, so we'll see how much that affects and helps what's going on with Seattle. First play here on the second drive, a nice laser to who is that? Was that I can't see who it is exactly, but
I thought it was Robert Woods
into Seattle territory. By the way, interesting spot here, 4th and goal for the New York Giants, down 5 points with it looks like 48 seconds left to go on the clock. Yep, and a false start on New York, very worthy of that. There you go. So now you're going to drive them back, one more shot at the end zone. Try to win this game over Philly. Again, catching about 7.5 points. So it looks like for right now, you're well within the number, but of course something could happen. Out route, pick 6, Eagles run it back. And then, of course, the Giants don't cover, which is something you would love.
It's not going to happen. Actually, you don't deserve it at this point. I mean, the Giants bettors deserve the cover. And
thanks, man.
Well, I mean, Eli came out and played great today, right? Like I said, he was lights out today, and who would have expected that? Last week, the Giants couldn't even mount a drive in the second half against Dallas. And this week, they're unstoppable. Yep. So, I mean, how do you figure this stuff sometimes in the NFL? It's impossible to figure. The Philly defense just shredded by Eli Manning all day. That's something I never would have expected, but that's something that happened right from the start. You know, the Giants were on top 20-7 in this game. So anybody who's a little disappointed in the Eagles' performance today, it should come down to the defense and nothing to do with Nick Foles on this day.
And by the way, that defense actually holds strong here on 4th and goal. Little corner out to Evan Ingram is incomplete out of the end zone. He wanted a flag, didn't get it.
He wanted a flag?
Yeah, he wanted the flag.
A receiver wanted a flag on an incomplete. What?
Yep. Eli Manning wanted one as well. Everyone's bewildered on the New York sideline, but shockingly enough, everybody on the Philly sideline didn't see anything. So it looks like that'll be your final score, 34-29. Eagles are going to kneel this one out. The Giants do have 3 timeouts left, so maybe they'll call 3, get the ball back with about, 5 seconds left to go, try to get something out of it. But for right now, looks like it's over, and this one's over too. Pick seals it up. Bryce Petty and the Jets fall 31-19. And
Jets cover.
Yep. I don't know if it's an impressive performance, but they get the cover. And like you said, it looked like at some point the Saints were kind of just like, let's get out of here, guys. Come on. We want to win this game, move on. We got bigger fish to fry. All right. So 1:25 p.m. Pacific time. We're 3 minutes away from kickoff for the Steelers and the New England Patriots. One thing of note here, Adam Schefter reporting, despite the fact that Hogan was listed as probable on the injury report, Schefter reporting that he will not play, or it looks like he will not play. So that's one less weapon for the New England Patriots. Kind of surprising, although he didn't do much in the game against Miami. He's missed a lot of time, too, so I don't know how much he really brings to the table, but still one less weapon for Tom Brady today. He does have Gronk back, though, so I think, to me, that's more important.
Well, obviously, Tom Brady missed Gronk on Monday night in Miami. There was no doubt about that, so having Gronk back on the field is going to be a huge, huge weapon. You know what? It wouldn't shock me if the Steelers won this game today, and then the Patriots had to go back into Pittsburgh in the playoffs.
Just destroy them.
With a healthy receiving core, just shred the Steelers and beat them on the road in the playoffs. I don't think the Patriots fear going in there and winning in Pittsburgh. They know this is a matchup that they can exploit with their slot receivers and guys like Hogan. I think he will be missed a little bit in this game today against the Steelers, but more importantly is Gronk is back in there.
Yeah, well, to me, and that's why it's more important with Gronk, just because
when you saw that game against Miami, right? They pulled the Patriots, in my opinion, because I went back and watched it last night. And it's you bracket up Brandon Cooks. You don't let him do whatever he wants. And then you're just like, Hogan, now you just came back from injury. You do whatever you want. Now that Gronk's back, you got to worry about both Cooks and Gronkowski, and that's going to help him out a lot.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're about, 1 minute from kickoff?
Yep.
Right now at the South Point, Patriots 2.5-point favorites, total of 53. And I'll check, see if the Westgate still has this at 2. What's that?
I got a bad number. I laid 2.5. I feel like a fool. I didn't really see the line move that this much at least, but yes, I feel like a fool. Am I allowed on the air?
The Westgate right now has the Patriots at 2, total 53.5.
Okay.
So that's just going to be a heavily bet two-way game. I think the more of the sharp money on the Steelers at +3. I think there's a little bit of value in that number, getting the full 3 on the Steelers as home dogs, but I'm not going to argue with anybody who wants to bet the Patriots, obviously.
All right, and one more to update because this one's about to kick off as well. Tennessee and San Francisco. Tennessee catching 2.5 points. There's a 2 out there on the road against the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo has improved. I think he's looked better every single game up to this point with San Francisco. On top of that, too, 4-0 as a starter and going back to his days with New England. Jimmy G's been playing well. But you and I think we both agreed on this, the fact that when it opened up Tennessee -1, wrong team was favored. Now it looks like it's the right side, and San Francisco -2, 2.5.
Costly dropped their
third down
on the Ram. Cooper Kupp on the third down, and that was 3rd and 6. Rams going to have to kick a field goal again. Had a chance to really put it to the Seahawks early in this game and going to settle for 2 field goals by Greg the Leg, who is going to be,
I love that name.
See if I can jinx him. He's going to be 38 of 40 on field goals this season after he makes this one for the Rams. Put him up 6-0. I do. Yeah. I'm just testing it.
Oh, okay. All right, here we go. Oh, it's magical.
Right down the middle.
There you go.
38 of 40 for Greg the Leg. Giants got a punt return here with 15 seconds left, so going to have one last gasp.
Yep.
They're down 34-29. And there you go, your guy Jimmy G trotting on the field. I thought the Niners should be slight favorites here, 1 to 2 point favorites in this game. The Titans 8-5 with a negative point differential. Marcus Mariota with 10 TD passes, 14 picks. This is a guy who's really been struggling. The Titans did not play well last week in the desert. They're on back-to-back road games on the West Coast. The situation does not set up well.
Nope.
The Niners 2-0 with Jimmy G as starting quarterback. I think he's looked really good. They're playing with a lot more confidence with him in there. I did play the Niners for a little bit here. Not a big play, but I like the Niners a little in this game.
Just updating some of the other numbers. Sunday Night Football, too. Dallas holding steady is about a 3-point favorite. I see the 2.5 here at the South Point, though.
2.5.
Yep, there you go. So Oakland actually got a little bit of love here at the South Point. I think that's kind of wrong. Oakland looks like a dumpster fire at this point. Not great at all. And now that it's 2.5 here for the Cowboys, I will be right back. No, I'm going to roll over the winnings.
You want to take a break and go bet it?
No, actually, I'll roll over the winnings from the Steelers and the Patriots. I'll wait. I'm going to get I got some good windfall of cash coming my way.
I think this is another case with sharp money taking the home dog there, getting 3, which I could see that. I mean, if you're going to play games based on numbers, the Cowboys on power ratings might be 2 points better than the Raiders. Mm-hmm. Factor in the home field if you want to, and you can see some value taking the Raiders +3. So that's essentially where that money comes from. A lot of these guys are playing numbers, not necessarily their opinions on teams.
Yep. All right, this one's final. Giants get the cover, 34-29. Jay Kornegay scoffed. Everybody scoffed at the Giants. Nobody wanted a piece of them. But they held serve at home. There you go, New York. I love it. It finally pays off. I've lost quite a few bets on New York. There's been so many times where I was like, yeah, this is a great spot. Finally pays off. So I'm not really a genius. Okay, when we come back, we do have one more game to go over. That's actually Monday night. Atlanta taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's going to be a great preview coming back. By the way, buy now. Get 20% off the merchandise in the VSiN store. You'll find VSiN shirts and hats for any sports betting occasion. They're made to order so you can find the right design, color, and size. Go to VSiN.com/store. Use the discount code Holiday Sale, all one word. Get 20% off. It's VSiN.com/store for your holiday shopping. Come back. Monday night preview next year on the Green Zone.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive. You are back in the VSiN Green Zone. Sign up for our daily newsletter and watch the show at VSiN.com. Now back to Las Vegas and the VSiN studios.
All right, plenty of action, obviously, here on this NFL Sunday, but we do have one contest on Monday night, Falcons and Buccaneers. So with that, let us bring in our next guest. That would be Orlando Ledbetter, Atlanta Falcons beat writer. And Orlando, thanks for the time today. Really appreciate it, especially on an NFL Sunday. So the last time these two teams met, I mean, the Falcons really had a solid performance against Tampa Bay. Now they have to go to Tampa Bay. Can they continue that in terms of the offensive outburst that they had the last time that they faced the Buccaneers? 34-20 final score there in Atlanta.
Yeah, well, Jones erupted 253 yards, 2 touchdowns in that one. Mohamed Sanu threw one of the touchdowns to him. I think they can continue that offensive outburst, but even Tampa Bay will try to take Julio away. But the Falcons should be able to put up some yards against the 31st ranked defense in the league.
Hey, you just talked about Julio Jones, and he had that huge game 2 weeks ago and then was shut down really a week ago. What's the difference? Obviously, the Vikings had a corner, Xavier Rhodes, who was a great matchup for Julio Jones. Who do the Bucs have who can match up with Julio, or is it going to be double team attention that they have to pay to him to try to slow him down? Because that Matt Ryan Julio Jones connection, Daryl, seems like it's really key to the Falcons' offensive success, obviously.
Yeah, the Bucs left him in single coverage for some reason last time, but T.J. Ward is back, the safety. He'll be in there with taking Chris Coyote's spot. Their best scenario would be to put a combination of Brett Grimes and T.J. Ward on Julio, and then try to, see if they can control Mohamed Sanu and Austin Hooper and the other weapons in the passing game. They certainly can't let just Julio run around alone with one person like they did in the last contest.
What about Tevin Coleman? He's been ruled out, Falcons running back, for Monday night's games. How's that going to impact the offense? I know the Falcons can find ways to compensate without a running back here or there, but Tevin Coleman's a guy, when he's healthy, can be an explosive playmaker. Falcons going to be without him again tomorrow night, though.
Yeah, no question, and they use that tandem with him and Devontae Freeman, but because of concussions this year, earlier in the season, Coleman had to carry the load by himself for 3 games, and they're going to ask Devontae to do that the rest of the, as long as he's in the concussion protocol, and certainly on Monday night against the Bucs. Devontae had 24 for 91 last week, and is certainly capable of a big game. And he'll be backed up by Teron Ward. It won't be the, 60-40 split they normally have at that position. You'll see Ward, late to give Freeman some rest, but not that much. So it'll be Devontae Freeman carrying most of the rushing load with Tevin Coleman out this game.
Orlando, a big storyline for the Falcons this entire year has been the offense in general, the fact that it's taken a step back under Sarkisian. But if you look at the numbers, they're still a top 10 offense in essentially every single category. So is this storyline that the Falcons offense is disjointed? Is this overblown? Or are you actually seeing something here where there's actually some credibility to the fact that they think it's not the same offense as last year?
Yeah, well, no, it's not the same, but they are putting up the numbers. One of the issues this year is that last year they started the same line for 19 games, and that's unheard of in the league. And this year we're going to see another player making his second start, Ben Garland. It's their third different combination along the line. And, if anything's been inconsistent or patchy, it's been the blocking. And whether they can protect Matt Ryan or not, or run the ball. There have been times when, they didn't have time to throw against Minnesota. And Xavier Rhodes did a good job on Julio with some safety help. And there have been times when they haven't been able to run the ball. So there is something to that. And the consistency, I trace it to the fact that they've, had to jumble up the line here more than they had in the past.
All right, D. Orlando Ledbetter, Atlanta Falcons beat writer for the Journal-Constitution at D. Orlando AJC on Twitter while we're talking with him. The Rams hit for a big punt return. Not sure if it's going to be a touchdown or not. Might be down at the 1 yard line. And the Patriots, Tom Brady connected on a deep pass. Patriots got 2nd and goal inside, it might be inside the Steelers. Let's just say inside the Steelers 10. All right. So Monday night, when the Falcons go to Atlanta to face the Bucs, Daryl, are we going to see a motivated Bucs team similar to what we saw a week ago when the Patriots went to Miami and got ambushed by the Dolphins? Is there a possibility that something like that could happen Monday night?
Oh, certainly. You should definitely that can definitely happen. You know, the guys are do go to a different place when they're playing on Monday Night Football, and they know everybody is watching, and their families, the league, everybody's going to be watching. They're going to try to play their best game. But I think this Bucs team is a little bit too decimated to even pull something out like that. With Gerald McCoy's out, Levante Davis out, and Hargrave is out. But, yeah, they'll come out and try to fight, but I don't think they have enough firepower to pull it off.
How much of a mess is the situation there in Tampa Bay? Because you look at the team right now with Dirk Cutter in charge, they are 4-9 and 1-6 on the road, 0-3 in the division. Nothing positive really you can take away from the Bucs season at this point. Jameis Winston has regressed, taken a step or two back. I'm not sure if Dirk Cutter's the right guy for the job down there in Tampa Bay. Does the situation need a reboot, or what do you think is going to happen in the offseason down there with the Bucs?
Yeah, I think I put it all on Jameis. He's got to grow up. He's 23. We got to remember that. He came out early, and we saw him, in Hard Knocks when Dirk was trying to coach him hard, and he's falling down, throwing the ball up in the air and doing, silly things with the football. I put it on the fact that their quarterback is not matured. They hired Dirk to coach him, and they were doing pretty good the first 2 years, moved to 9-7. The clearly is taking a step back. I don't think the kid's taken to, trying to learn how to play the game the right way in the NFL. And that's going to, mess up your whole team. And he's also been hurt this year. So I don't think Dirk Cutter's the problem in Tampa. I think the problem's number 3, and number 3 needs to grow up and learn to listen and be coached and be coachable. I mean, he's still putting the ball in danger too many times. He's turned it over. They had 5 last week. 3 of them were his. And, that's not winning football. And if it's not Dirk, then whoever they bring in and he's still playing like that, he's going to get him fired too. So he needs to elevate his game and grow up. And I'm not even getting into the off-the-field stuff with the Uber incident and his pregame speeches and so forth. I'm talking about on the football field.
All right, so you don't think Jameis is going to be eating that W tomorrow?
No, and I don't even know what that is, man. That was just weird. That freaked everybody out. I know, man. I don't know what that was. Sorry, man. But no, I don't think he'll be eating a W. Maybe he should just eat a hot dog.
Yeah, that was probably the worst pregame speech I've ever seen. Yeah. That's all I can say from a player.
Yeah, Orlando, I wanted to ask you, out of pregame speeches, because you've been covering this league, is that one of the worst, if not the worst one you've seen? Anything else come to mind?
Yeah, I don't even think anything's on par. I don't even know where to put that in the pregame category. Everybody talks about family and fighting for every blade of grass and going out and getting the W. I don't know what the licking part comes from. It was just bizarre, man. I don't know where to put that one.
All right, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Orlando Ledbetter joining us here, Falcons beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. You can find him on Twitter at DOrlandoAJC. Orlando, Gerald McCoy, issue with the biceps. He's hoping not to have surgery. And actually, there's a report out there from Pro Football Talk that he hopes to play on Monday, despite the fact that he was ruled out about a day ago. So are you hearing anything in terms of McCoy, whether he'll play or not? And, of course, he's awesome for this team. So does that change the game plan for the Falcons in terms of running the ball?
Last report we got Saturday, was that he would be out, and we won't hear anything from the team until, before 90 minutes before the game. But I'm pretty sure that, that goes into the league, and that's ironclad. So I'm not anticipating him playing. But, yeah, as far as the Falcons are concerned, he's a menace. He was able to get after Ryan a little bit in that last game, coming over Wes Schweitzer's position at right guard. So, yeah, if he's out, they'll be able to, maybe have some more time in the pocket and work that side of the field because he's such a dominant force inside for the Bucs.
All right, Monday night, Tampa Bay.
Yep.
The Falcons are 6.5-point favorites. Total is 49. When these teams met, I want to say it was November 26th. Yep, November 26th. Falcons beat the Bucs 34-20. Julio Jones, 12 catches, 253 yards, and 2 TDs. By far the biggest game he's had this season. He was held to 24 yards a week later by the Vikings, and then 98 yards on 5 catches against the Saints about a week ago. Julio Jones and the Falcons, do you think Darryl will have a lot of success Monday night moving the ball against this Tampa defense and what should be a high-scoring game? How's the total of 49 sound to you, and what type of pace do you think this game will be played at tomorrow?
Yeah, I like the, I think the 49 is low, and I think the pace will be fast and furious, a lot of points going up. That defense just isn't very good, and, that there's not a lot Coach Smith can do unless he just sits back in some zone and make them work it underneath. I see the Falcons, trying to, press the pedal here and stay in contact with the Patriots and the Saints. The Panthers and the Saints in the division. Both of those teams won today.
Yep.
The Falcons can't afford to lose to Tampa Bay, and I think they'll go down there and take care of business in grand fashion.
Okay, let's get your opinion on how you think the NFC South is going to play out here. We got the schedule's backloaded with a lot of division games. These teams are it's a traffic jam at the top of the standings here with these 3 and the Bucs at the bottom. How do you think things are going to work out here in the final 2 weeks in the NFC South?
Yeah, I think I think the Saints are in control here. The Saints have 2 wins over Carolina. They play the Falcons, and then they close with the Bucs. So they have to be considered the front runner. They got the home game against the Falcons after losing a real tough one up here 2017. So they can beat the Falcons on Christmas Eve. That'll pretty much wrap up the South. I don't see them losing in Week 17 to the Bucs. So they're in the front. They got the best vantage point of taking this division here with their 2 wins already over Carolina and a home game against the Falcons. The Falcons got to upset them and then beat Carolina at home to win the division, and that might just be a little too much for them this season.
The Orlando Ledbetter, Atlanta Falcons beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Hey, Orlando, thanks a lot for the time. Really appreciate it today.
Sure, no problem, John and Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
all right.
No problem. Look at that.
Very good guest.
Yes.
I had strong words, strong opinion, let's put it that way,
Yep.
on Jameis Winston, right? You don't hear that said often enough because I've felt like Winston's a big part of the Bucs' problems as well.
Well, look, and you go back to that Eat the W game, right? It's not just the Eat the W. Remember, he had the antics on the sideline of that game where he's pushing the helmet of Mike Evans and causing everything on the sideline. I'm with him. There's a little bit of the terms of maturity issues. So.
Well, that was a game where Mike Evans flew in from behind and leveled the Saints player, blindsided him, a blindside hit. And, stuff like that's just nonsense. You can tell a team's kind of spiraling out of control when situations like that pop up. But the Bucs have a lot of problems. We'll see if they show up big on Monday night, similar to how the Dolphins did a week ago with Jay Cutler. And, of course, Jay Cutler cannot put 2 good games back to back.
All right, when we come back, we will update everything going on in the NFL. But before we go, I need to ask if you visited VSiN.com lately. We've just released a new feature called Odds Across Las Vegas. In one quick glance, you can compare and contrast the latest odds from our home base here at the South Point, as well as 10 other Las Vegas sports books. We're talking every game, all the major sports, from NFL, NBA, NHL, and college football and basketball. All the odds, all updated as they change, all in one place, powered by our friends at Don Best Sports. Go to VSiN.com/Vegas odds to see this new feature in action. NFL scoreboard run around when we come back.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive. You are back in the VSiN Green Zone. Sign up for our daily newsletter and watch the show at VSiN.com. Now back to Las Vegas and the VSiN studios.
All right, well, we're just still in the first quarter, but this Steelers-Patriots game already living up to expectations. Tom Brady, first drive of the game, takes New England right downfield, scores a touchdown, puts them up 7-0. Big Ben's like, nah, it's Pittsburgh. This is my house. So what does he do? 6 for 9, takes the Steelers right downfield.
Did he actually say nah?
I'm sure he did.
Okay.
It's somewhere around there. It's like the AFC North Football, and AFC North Football. Takes them right downfield, 6-9 on the drive, throws a touchdown, and there you go. We have a 7-7 tie in Pittsburgh.
I think he's more likely, he said, we're going to introduce you to AFC North Football.
Yeah.
Big Ben, 6 of 9, 85 yards and a touchdown, has not been sacked. Off to a great start. Le'Veon Bell's only got 3 carries. He leads the NFL in rushing. I think the Steelers do the right thing here by use the pass game to open up running lanes. Mm-hmm. And too often, I think offensive coordinators make the mistake of trying to run the ball first and then pass second, and you end up setting yourself up in a lot of third and long situations. But the Patriots can be beat by the pass. And what the Steelers can do is spread the field. You can even use Le'Veon Bell as a wide receiver threat. The Patriots can't defend all the weapons the Steelers got. They got too much speed out there. So use the pass to soften up the defense, and then let Le'Veon Bell do his work inside after you loosen up that defense a little bit. And I think that's what's going to work for the Steelers today. Tom Brady, meanwhile, is going to have a ton of success. Starts off, he's 4 for 4 for 62 yards. Just hit Gronk right there for a 2-yard pass. Dion Lewis, Rex Burkhead, the running back so far for the Patriots. So it's raining right now in Pittsburgh. The conditions you would think would play to the under, but the way these offenses can move the ball, and I think the matchups really favor the offenses, I think we're going to have a shootout all Sunday afternoon. This game's going to live up to the hype.
All right, and over in the NFC West, so the Rams have just opened up a 13-0 lead in the first quarter over the Seattle Seahawks. And, we use the term constantly, shooting yourself in the foot, right? So check this out. In the scoring drives for the Rams thus far, field goal, 5 plays, just 22 yards. Right? Next drive, 7 plays, just 37 yards, tacked on a field goal. And then their touchdown was a 1-play, 1-yard drive.
Off a nice punt return down to the 1-yard line. Now the Rams are on the move again.
Yep. The Seahawks keep giving them favorable field position, shooting themselves in the foot. Their first drive ended in a fumble that gave them awesome field position. They've just been giving it up to the Rams. You can't keep doing that.
No, you can't keep doing it. But I'll say this. Rams are going to have to, a drive like this, you're going to have to start scoring touchdowns.
Yep.
Keep kicking field goals. And you leave that door cracked open for Russell Wilson, watch out. That could be bad news. Tom Brady goes down, sacked right there for the first time in the game. So the Pats are going to be 3rd and long. Look at those terrible towels.
Second down.
Huh?
It's second down. I believe they got a first down. At least the marker said, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be second down here. So at least you're not in a huge hole there on 3rd down. You can make up the room.
Got a lot of time left in the game, too.
No, of course. We're just talking about the drive there in general. Like you said, it is raining quite a bit.
It's raining pretty hard.
Yeah.
This is Pittsburgh weather. This is AFC North football. But the Rams off to a great start. Jared Goff, like you said, hadn't put up big numbers so far. But Todd Gurley's got 6 carries for 57 yards. And the Rams have shown, I think, early in this game, they're going to be able to run the ball in Seattle. When you're talking about Seattle defenses, without Cliff Averill, without Cam Chancellor, without KJ Wright, he's not playing today, right?
Nope.
And Richard Sherman.
And a hampered Bobby Wagner, too.
And Bobby Wagner slowed a little bit by hamstring injury, but I thought he was going to play today based on what I had read. Bobby Wagner was most likely to be on the field. I'll tell you this. If Bobby Wagner wasn't going to play today, I would have doubled my bet on the Rams. That guy is so valuable. He's like Sean Lee to the Cowboys or Luke Kuechly to the Panthers. If you take all those other guys out on that Seattle defense and take out Bobby Wagner on top of it, forget it.
Yeah.
It's Seattle D is going to fall apart. They still got a shot here. If they can hold the Rams to a field goal, you got Russell Wilson not going to be out of a game. But the Rams, with all these opportunities, you're talking about a field position. Have great field position. You got to take advantage of that when you have it. It's not going to last all day.
By the way, so a 3rd and 15 for the New England Patriots. Tom Brady, nobody open downfield, so just really essentially has to check it down. It's going to be 4th and 9, and the Patriots are going to punt this ball away. So the Steelers look to see if they can push their brand of AFC North football on their second drive here and tack on a couple extra points. It looks like they'll get the ball at about their own 30-yard line or so. So Big Ben, the killer bees, as they like to call them, trotting back out onto the field in a 7-7 deadlock. Next up here, a game that not a lot of people, I'm sure, are super interested in, although I am. Jimmy GQ and the San Francisco 49ers at a 6-0 lead over the visiting Tennessee Titans. About 3 minutes and 16 seconds left to go. Jimmy Garoppolo thus far 7 of 10, 76 yards. He's been sacked one time. It was actually pretty intriguing. The 49ers in terms of rushing, 6 attempts, 34 yards. So they're actually running the ball, at least at the beginning of the game, relatively well.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota still has not sparked this Titans offense with any big plays right now. The Titans got 17 yards rushing out of DeMarco Murray, and Titans trying to cross midfield here down 6-0. I mean, when is Marcus Mariota going to light the fuse for this Titans attack? We haven't seen it in a while. A lot of short passes.
Yep, there's another one right there.
You know, just a middling rushing attack. The Titans are a very boring team to watch, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I would agree with that one, completely. And yeah, again, as I mentioned, another just little quick stick route, and you're short of the first down marker, so you're going to have about a 3rd and 1 here. See if you can convert it, but I'm with you. It's such a simplistic offense. You don't put the ball, and usually you don't want to put the ball at risk, but you also take shots downfield.
You got to take shots. If all you do is throw short passes, the corners are just going to press up on your receivers. The safeties will come up closer to the line of scrimmage. That short passing attack is going to be suffocated. You've got to try to stretch the field with some vertical throws, and the Titans definitely don't do that enough.
The short run there, so they get the 1st and 10, squeeze out about 4 yards on the run. That is Vegas' own DeMarco Murray. Oh, no, it's not. That is Derrick Henry. Thought that was a 9, so it is actually Henry who gets the first down there for the Tennessee Titans. 1st and 10 for Tennessee at this point of the game. Wanted to get your opinion because we only have a couple minutes and it's not really worth doing a lot of, but I wanted to get earlier today, it was announced Marvin Lewis has decided that he will not return to the Cincinnati Bengals. He's decided it on his own to, quote, pursue other opportunities was the quote that I saw. I'm curious as to, 1, what are the opportunities, and 2, where do the Bengals go from here?
I think I know where Marvin Lewis is headed next.
Please tell me, because I had this conspiracy theory. Tell me.
I know what you're going to say.
What?
Herm Edwards in Arizona State.
Yeah, he needs all the coordinators are leaving him. He needs somebody. I assume that's not what you're thinking.
No, what's the name of that famous chili out of Cincinnati?
What is it?
Skyline Chili. He's going to go manage the Skyline Chili franchise. I believe that's what's going to happen.
That's his other opportunity?
Yeah.
Going to franchise one? That'd be awesome. Order a big bowl of Skyline Chili, and all of a sudden Marvin Lewis is like, careful, that one's hot.
Last time I went to the Cincinnati Reds game, I ate like 15 of those Skyline Chili dogs.
Yeah.
They were awesome.
Good? Yeah. I'm a chili guy. I enjoy it. I assume it's steak chili?
So it wouldn't be a bad career move for Marvin Lewis. Like, he'd be very, very popular. I mean, he's been there so long, and the Bengals have failed in the playoffs.
They don't have a win.
You know, it's amazing that the guy's tenure has lasted as long as it has. And I think, at some point it gets stale. Everything about the head coach's message, just his whole tenure gets stale, and it's time for change. And it was probably time for a change in Cincinnati like 5 years ago. So for it to happen now, it's probably, I'm guessing, a mutual decision between Mike Brown and, don't you think?
Oh, yes, of course.
I wasn't just him saying, walking into Mike Brown's office.
Skyline's got a great offer for me.
I've been offered a job at Skyline Chili, and I think it's time to move on to pursue that opportunity. I think Mike Brown said, I think it's time for you to look for another opportunity. How about that? Jared Goff throws a pick in the red zone.
There you go.
Okay, see that? These are the type of opportunities the Rams have to take advantage of, or you're going to crack the door open and the Seahawks will take advantage. And don't be surprised if Russell Wilson mounts a scoring drive here. This is a huge mistake. As a 4th and 1.
Yep.
Sean McVay, I think, did the right thing by gambling. The 3rd down play call could have been better. The 4th down play call, not great. And that's going to come back to haunt the Rams a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, the rough spot. This is where he's dangerous. You're down only by 2 scores. Like you said, keeping him in the game. So we'll see if they can mount the drive here. And again, 1st and 10 for the Killer Bees, the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's completed to Le'Veon Bell, about a 1-yard gain. So you're going to have a 2nd and 9 with 45 seconds left to go in the first quarter. All right, when we come back, speaking of the Killer Bees, one of their former offensive linemen, Max Starks, NFL analyst for Stadium, is going to join us on the other side. This is the Green Zone.
This is the VSiN Green Zone on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM Channel 204. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at VSiNLive.